Oh, I thought you had. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I wasn't recording until just now. Yeah, I am in creative mode, just doing a little bit of the work I intended earlier. I know it's cheating a little bit, but it's just gonna make it more convenient for us to move around. Yeah, I have built a pathway between my home's hell portal and your old home's hell portal, and I definitely have the obsidian on my actual character to not cheat and make you a hell portal at your new place.
So, is there an easy way to explain how it works? Well, first of all, why were we having that glitch the other day when I kept on teleporting just back and forth between two apparently dead? Well, that's how it started. Then we eventually started getting portals into absolutely nowhere random places. Do we know yet why
Yeah,
that happened? Yeah, okay.
I still do not know.
Oh, just chalk it
I
up to a total glitch, I guess.
A glitch or the fact that the game automatically spawned in with that one nether portal half built and I finished it. So if there's a half built portal, another portal near where you are now, I'll just finish that one. Or if there isn't one, well, either way, we know in the future those might fuck things up.
Should we continue building them then if we see the broken ones, as opposed to just leave them alone?
That's a valid interpretation of doing things. I don't know if they screw them up on their own, even just half done. I don't know.
Yeah, not sure at all.
Let's see, and there we go. That is that path cleared out. And I have the coordinates, so yeah, in non-creative mode, so I'm at least partly not cheating. I'm at least partly honest. In survival mode, I will sail my ass over to your new home and plant down a hell portal and get the coordinates there and be able to find the other couple hell portals from there and route to them. And I'll do that in creative mode though, just so I don't fucking explode like I did last time I tried to do this in hell.
That is a good idea. I will come back and check this area out again where I'm looking for my old death point. But in the meantime, I'm going to go over back to my house, my village, whatever, and see if I can find a spot for you to put that portal. Because there's a couple spots. I'm eventually going to start fencing off the village, make it kind of like a more inhabitable place. But because of that, I need to kind of try and find a good spot to put the portal. You might wind up putting it somewhere where I'm going to fence it in. So I will have to go back and look.
Yeah, I was kind of figuring I'd put it some distance away from your property. Not,
It
not
wouldn't
super far away, but far away enough that it won't get in the way of things.
It wouldn't necessarily hurt to be kind of close to the village, but yeah, I'll have to go and look and see if there might be a really good spot for it already. I'm not sure. I'm gonna head back there now,
Yeah,
assuming I'm heading back the right way this time. It's so easy to get lost.
it really is.
Yeah, the maps. I don't know how I feel about the maps now. They seem like honestly they seem like a lot less useful. I don't know. Seems like making a map just okay. Well, here's the immediate like 20 feet around you. Make 30 of those to know where you're at.
It's not so bad if you're not if you're putting together the regular paper maps like I am, but if you're there's no point in using a compass for one.
Well, how do you feel that it's better if you're putting together the maps? Because you didn't, I mean, you always were able to do that, but they used to be way more zoomed out, so one single individual map was not as useless as it seems to be now.
Yeah, but back then there were no maps that were made out of just paper. You always had to have a compass, which would always spend iron and redstone.
I would have been willing to do it in exchange for a better map. I wonder if you still can build a better map and it just uses a different materials. I don't know.
We've
It's
never
the
touched the
maps feel like.
cartography table.
True. I forgot what you're even supposed to do with that. I don't know. I think you started looking it up, but I can't remember if we ever determined what you do with it. Maybe I'm
Yeah.
wrong. Jesus, I am lost again, aren't I? What's that I just saw?
I'm
What
gonna
the
have to
hell
reorganize this storage at some point. Sweet Jesus.
is that? Is this? Yes, it is. Okay, all right. I know where I'm at. All right. Yep, I'm flying back home. I have not been able to get any more material, any more items of any kind since I died. I spent so much time looking for my death spot, hoping to find all my stuff that I lost. So at the moment, I'm still running around basically empty. Got a couple
Oof.
of yeah, some basic building blocks that I spawned in creative mode just to kind of perk up the little house that I was building, or not even really building so much, just kind of fixing up, upgrading a little bit in the village. But other than that, I got nothing.
Ooh.
So that's one of the reasons. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I was intent on trying to find that the death spot.
Oh, I see the parts of my forest are still on fire. Or I set them on fire
Oh,
last time.
yeah, that's right. It really is nice of them to take a break, to pause.
Yeah, they got unions for this shit. They do.
The fire does.
I guess so. Okay, some stuff evidently doesn't despawn because I see a bunch of dirt blocks sitting in the water from when I exploded near the end of last recording.
About how much in? Okay, well, that's at least good to know that the recording, or not the recording, rather. Obviously, that's relevant. But the leaving the game and coming back, that does not kill the spawn, the respawn. That's good. So unless there's a time limit, my stuff might still be out there, which is promising.
Yeah, I do wonder how much of it is if the chunk is loaded.
Yeah, I feel like it might have something to do with that, and or that spawn limit or the spawn timer or the spawn. Something about what did they say it was? It was simulation distance was one of the settings,
Yeah.
and again, my interpretation is how far out do you want the game to still be like moving when you're not there.
Yeah.
That's my belief anyway. I did find a yeah, there's a really good spot for a portal that's close enough to the village, but not enough to where if I fence the place off as I plan to do, it will interfere. It's a good
Alright.
spot.
I'm probably, I don't know, an eighth to a quarter of the way there, so.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll just I'm gonna build just a relatively tall. It's gonna be on one far end of the village. Not that the village is super huge, but it's gonna be on one end. You'll find it very easily. It's I put a whatever like one of our little classic monuments of birch wood going up
Yeah.
into the sky. Not even really in the sky. It's only like 10 feet tall or 10 blocks tall, but you'll see it easily. Feel free to put
Yeah.
the portal somewhere over there.
Yeah.
And I'm back out to continue looking for my stuff. Don't worry if anyone's watching. I'm not going to be doing that all session like I was for the last hour of our last session. I'm just going to give it a little time, try and retrace my steps because now I know where to go. I just really, really want to find that shit.
Yeah. Why is there
That
dirt?
shit. Plus the cats if I can. Why is there dirt?
Why is there dirt strung throughout the water here?
Dirt strung throughout the water. What do you mean? Like broken dirt? Empty? Like not empty rather, but like pickupable like item
Yeah.
spawn dirt?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a good question.
And it's like they've been breadcrumb trailed. Yeah, going from like the boat that's been flipped up and beached on the island all the way over to and the next couple islands over. Oh no, it's going the breadcrumb trail's going past the beached boat. What the hell?
Yeah, that's odd. Something obviously happened.
But I didn't do it. Did
I
you?
don't I don't believe so. Whereabouts is it?
Okay, it's like a breadcrumb trail being made from just about the place of the flying capsized boat with a waterfall coming down off of it, all the way back to really halfway.
Oh, yeah, I did leave breadcrumbs actually, very specifically now that you mentioned that. I forgot all about that. Yes. Wow, I can't believe that lasted. I did that as I was sailing around looking for different places to find a new settlement the other day. Remember, I was kind of going around the map
Oh
thinking,
shit, was
well,
that
I'll try
before I
that.
even joined?
Yes, yeah, it was. Yeah, I was good. Like I was at that.
Okay,
Remember, I
so
said I
yeah,
was
if
spending like 2 hours doing that, looking around for a new place. Yeah, and then you joined in,
by,
flying above me in my desert.
by all means, that shit should have unloaded by now if anyone was around. So I guess yeah, simulation distance will keep the stuff fine.
That's okay. That's good. That's real good. I hope. I hope that means that my stuff's still out there somewhere. Yeah, I actually did that. I mean, you can do whatever you want with it if you want, collect it, whatever. I just left it there so I knew which direction I was coming from because that's a unless you know really where you're going in that sea, it is a pretty big sea. You have to go a while to find the boundaries of it, and I eventually did. But I did that while I was crisscrossing and trying to figure out where I was.
Yeah,
Yeah, once you start talking about Trail of Breadcrumbs, I was like, wait a minute. I wasn't picturing that it was in that spot. I was thinking you meant like along a beach or whatever. I'm like, well, I definitely didn't do that. But then once you said that it was in the water, I was like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's actually very precisely what it was. Eventually, I think I dropped a couple other items too, like some seeds or something when I ran out of dirt.
To be honest, earlier I might have absentmindedly saw seeds floating on the ocean and went, "Oh, seeds," and picked it up without asking why there were seeds in the middle of the
Why
ocean.
there are seeds in the ocean? Yeah,
Sweet,
quite
I can feed a
possibly.
chicken.
Yeah, when I get back home. Good thing that a tree fell and died apparently at the surface of this water.
Somebody mowed their lawn out in the
Yeah.
ocean.
Oh, speaking of mowing the lawn, that makes me think of lawn mowers, which makes me think of King of the Hill, which reminds me that I forgot to mention this to you the other day when I was looking up the actor who played Dale. I confirmed that yeah, you're right, he did die, like back in like October or something like that, maybe.
Yeah.
His cause of death was undetermined. He was found decomposed.
Oh, what the fuck? I didn't hear about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, last I checked on Wikipedia, it said that been decomposed. I think like it'd been several days before somebody found him, and it didn't really go into more detail than that. That was very sad to hear. And unfortunately, ironically, kind of very well, not ironically, but very coincidentally, very kind of like Dale conspiracy theory like.
It
It's
is,
like, oh
and
man, maybe someone killed him and left him for a few days, right? Which I'm sure obviously didn't happen, but yeah, go on.
well, how long was it before someone found Brittany Murphy?
I forgot about that. Her death was really weird too. Shit, I don't know how long it was. I do not know how long it was. I don't recall. I definitely remember that her weird husband wound up dying the same way, which was extremely odd. I mean, I chalked it up to something being in the house, mold in the walls or whatever, which they then investigated and said that no, that wasn't the case, which I find very strange. I mean, if it wasn't fucking mold, then okay, what else is it? Why isn't anyone making a big deal out of it?
A
It's like, oh
ghost!
yeah, no, two people. Yeah,
A demon
yeah.
ghost!
Yeah, a demon ghost, not just a ghost, but a very, very angry, aggressive monster ghost, or a
Or
ghost
a
of a
chance to
monster.
hunt above 80 sanity.
Yeah, that's it's sad but funny. I can't lie. Yeah, her. I remember when you were saying in that video I sent you where she's being adorable in Blockbuster. You were like, wow, you were just stricken by how skinny she was, and I remember saying I don't think that like she tried to do that. I think she had weight issues because she was like to my knowledge she wasn't a drug addict or anything. I think she just like she used to be kind of chunky and then she lost the weight. And I read what last time I was looking up the Brittany Murphy death. It said that several of her friends said that her husband was bad news, and they said that some of them blamed him. I don't know exactly what the cause was, emotional abuse, whatever, but they said that he was the cause for her getting so thin.
Yeah, I can see that. There are some guys who are somehow. You'd think that they'd be left, but no, there's a lot of guys who can somehow just get away with, like, telling their wife every day, "Oh, you're a fat pig."
Hey, yeah, there are people like that. A lot of people like that, unfortunately. Back when I used to date a lot, I heard endless stories about, they were like, "Oh, you're such a nice guy, it's so," and I'm like, "Well, I'm, I can be kind of an asshole, and I try to be nice, but, geez." And they're like, "No, no, no, you don't understand. I'm used to guys that are just like, yeah, they'll chat you up to get what they want, and then if they don't, they're like, yeah, yeah, fat bitch, go to hell." And it's like, what the, like, really? Like at your age? Oh yeah,
I remember when I
yeah.
watched Married with Children. He was my hero, Al Bundy.
It seems like there's a lot of people like that. A
Yeah,
lot of people. If they're not sending dick pics, they're yelling at the girls for being whores or whatever. Like they're
that
totally cool when the
I
guy
don't
wants them,
get.
but then once they get denied,
What's the
yeah, go
deal
ahead.
with that? Like, that's
What's the deal with? Yeah, go on. Go ahead.
what's the deal with abruptly sending people pictures of my penis?
Yeah, I don't need to do that. I just date hot underage girls and then eat flesh. Not necessarily in that order. Yeah. Well, not everyone can live like you, Jerry. Go ahead. What were you? Yeah.
Really,
What's
it's
the deal
more
with
a
that?
Louis C.K. style thing. But
Yeah, I get. Yeah, it really seems like it would be.
yeah, that's just one of those weird. I don't get like. I mean, to be honest, right? What's between the legs seems like the least attractive part of the human anatomy, right?
I have to, there's people out there that love that part, and that's perfectly fine. It's a nice part. It does what it needs to do, etc., just like the dick. But really, genitals, I don't care which gender, they're really, really ugly things.
Yeah, and
I
like
don't.
you see like old school like Playboy stuff or whatever, or like old school whatever, and like the picture is just the chick, fucking like either pointing to it or spreading it, and it's like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, there was an age there, which I think we might have come out of, where I was kind of ashamed of telling people that I'll watch porn. I don't like do it on a daily basis or nothing, but whatever. I'm a guy, and some guys enjoy looking at naked women more than other guys do, I guess, libido, whatever it is. And there was a time there between, like, let's say the early to late 2000s, before maybe the 2010s, where it just seemed like that was the in thing. Like everyone, that's when everyone first started getting clean shaven, to the point to where even the males that were in the pornos were like totally clean shaven from head to toe, which was weird and gross. It's like a bunch of Hitler youths banging these chicks, like seriously. And that's when I first
The
started
dude that
seeing
gets
all
put in the
this.
memes.
Yeah. I mean I think that's a thing, or at least it was. That was just like every porno I'd go and watch. It'd be like, why is it just a bunch of fucking skinheads
It's
banging
Mr.
these chicks?
Clean.
It was. The older ones looked like Mr. Clean. The younger ones looked like a war boy. It was like, what is this, like the new thing? I guess whatever. I guess it was. And that's also when I noticed two other trends. One, the men would be like, it was very aggressive. That's when, like, I'd see the men doing the spitting and the smacking and the yanking. It's like, what is, like, do people really enjoy this? Like, is this really a thing that people like? Whatever. And then the women, for their part, they were doing a lot of like, get that camera right up there and just fucking consume it with this thing. Just cram that camera right up there, back end, front end, don't matter. Just get it right up in there. It's like, oh, really? Yeah, it was completely unappealing. I just quit watching around that time. I just started relying on amateur stuff. Like, let me just go on the internet and look at an amateur site instead. And to this day, that's what I prefer. I don't know what the trend is now, but there's a lot
I
of sites
think
that
at
have like
least that
very
latter side of.
classy people.
I think at least that latter stuff you're talking about. I think that stuck.
Uh, yeah, that's a shame. That's a real shame. I mean, again, I'll say it again. There's something for everybody. It's fine. Whatever. If somebody likes that, that's up to them. If the two consenting adults are wanting to do that, on camera, that's fine too. Whatever. It's everyone's doing what they're wanting. That's fine. I just don't get the appeal. So whenever I I mean, I've had this conversation with many girls that I've dated. It's like, they're like, oh, sooner or later it comes down to porn, and most women seem to not care about it. It's becoming a lot more common thing. Most of the women I've met anyway. But I always, when I'm talking to them, I have to explain, like, when I say that I like porn, I'm like, hey, I'll like an occasional, just whatever, like watch a thing with a couple of, like, very, like, sensual, what's the word, not tame, what's the word, although some people would find it tame, very classy,
Yeah.
very classy, not, they're it's not just spitting, slathering, yanking, spreading. It's that's never been my thing. I find that I don't know. I just, whatever, I find that just completely gross. It's like primal caveman sex or something.
Yeah. 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 I stay away from most of it, but sadly, you end up getting exposed to some of it, and it's like you're watching like fucking dirty rejects sometimes, right? Some fucking Mason
Yeah.
Ryan, Ezekiel Jackson type goons, where Vince Solomon was like, ah, meat,
Yes.
and
Yes.
like you just glide past the image and you see them greased up, and it's like, oh boy, that's what people are into now, huh?
Yeah, and again, I'm fine with the fact that some people are, but I just never really understood it myself. And hang on one second here. Is that a cat? I think I found one of the cats.
Yay!
I think so. Yeah, that's not a yeah. This is not a place where you'd find an ocelot. Okay, so I found a place where one of the cats is. Excellent. This is a start. I might find the other cat, and if so, maybe also even my stuff.
Excellent.
Yes, it actually is. All right, time to build a big ol' marker here. All right, yeah, not to change the subject, although I'm sure you're probably fine with getting away from porn
Yeah,
talk.
I was kind of thinking as I was going on, I was like, how much can this discussion really go on?
Yeah, and how long should it really go on, right?
Yeah.
I found the other cat.
Oh my god.
I found the other cat. My stuff is somewhere near, if it's still available. At the very least, I got the kitties. Let me grant myself a creative mode leash, and I will be halfway to my goal. Oh god, where would a leash even be? I guess I could make one, or can you make one? Presumably.
I think you need
I can make it.
leather.
Oh, that would make sense. Oh, here it is. It's under equipment. And it's a lead, not a leash. That's right. Lead, lash, leash, lurch,
Lurch?
lush.
My
Yeah, he
favorite
probably
Adams
just said
Family
lurch.
member.
Lurch was pretty cool. He didn't say much, not much of a conversationalist, but he was a cool-looking character.
Yeah.
Did you watch both the I almost said Adam Sandler, the Adams Family movies? The old
I,
original ones with Raul Julia. Now I almost said Julia Roberts.
I definitely saw considerable stretches of them as a kid. I don't think I've ever watched them in full, least of all as an adult, which I do want to get around to at some point because they seem like fun movies.
Yeah, they are fun. Fun's the word. Not necessarily like great movies. The second one's a lot of fun. The first one's decent. Second one's a lot of fun. One of those I've mentioned this before. I think one of the rare examples of a sequel that's actually a lot better than the first one.
Ooh. Ooh, well,
Are you trying to think of other examples?
well, yeah, Terminator's the obvious one. Terminator 1 is
Yes,
good.
it is.
Terminator 2 is
My mind went there too.
one of the best action movies, if not the best action movie of all time.
Arguable, yeah.
A lot of people would say Mad Max. Road Warrior was
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes, I forgot about Mad Max. Yeah, Road Warrior was far better.
let's see who. There's situations where it's the third or fourth movie is the best. Like let's say Friday the 13th. There's some love to be had for Pamela Voorhees being unique, but other than that, she's not really. The first is not considered the best Friday the 13th.
First movie is a product of its time. It was one of the first like exploitation slasher movies. It kind of took what Halloween did, kind of dumbed it down even more, and was like, here you go, teenagers having sex and getting killed, with a fun twist at the end, that being Pamela Voorhees.
Yeah.
They then, I'm not going to lie and say that the Friday the 13th movies were especially intelligent, but for my money, the second one actually did feel the most like an actual film. The acting was relatively good. The acting was relatively good. The plot was relatively interesting. Some of the characters had a little bit of character to them. Yeah, it's also famously the first one to have Jason in a potato sack head, potato sack mask. That's my
Well,
favorite
the first
look.
half, Jason's the killer. Jason was present in the first, but only as the weird
Yeah,
ghoul at the bottom of
technically,
the lake.
yeah, that is a good point to make. Yes.
Ooh, let's see another one. And this is continuing the trend. Like Terminator 1 is a good movie. Night of the Living Dead is a good movie. Dawn of the Dead is fucking awesome.
Yeah, Dawn of the Dead. I think there are some people who disagree. Night of the Living Dead is classic, but I think the better film is Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
I
And
also feel that no, go ahead. Go ahead.
generally more influential, I would say as well.
That's hard to say. That's really kind of hard to say. My instinct is to say yes, but Night of the Living Dead kind of like set the classic standard for what a zombie movie, like the concept of a zombie, like the Walking Living Dead, that kind of thing. Like zombies were, I think before that time they were generally considered sort of like the voodoo hoodoo type of,
Yeah,
mystical type of thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
like a mind-controlled slave sort of dealy.
Yeah, I believe so. That's my memory of the process.
Yeah.
So yeah, as I think a film scholar would probably say Night is the more influential, but to me it seems like Dawn is the more memorable, popular, I guess. One had the most character, like concept. It was kind of high concept, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, and I think that for some people they could see like, oh well, Dawn of the Dead is still the same concept of a group living under siege, but well now they've added this needless extra characters when really it should just be about the tension between old what's his face and what's his face.
What's his faces?
The main dude and the owner of the house, the dad of the family. What's his name? Shit.
Oh God, I can't remember the character's name. I know the main character was Ben. I cannot remember the other characters.
Yeah. Shit.
Yeah, would you believe I dated a girl in about 2002 who looked almost exactly like Barbara, the one the one main female of that movie, like
I
almost spot on. It was uncanny. It was kind of creepy actually.
I can believe that. Yeah, that's not I don't find it impossible.
Yeah, just kind of like a weird random like wow, she looks. I was telling my friend she looks just like Barbara from Night of the Living Dead, for better or worse.
And I can
Jamie
only
Lynn. I
I
won't
can
say her last name. Go
I can
ahead.
I can only imagine how many times that they would say that fucking line to you and to her.
Oh well, she probably got it, but I guess now that I think about it, yeah, I did get it from a couple people when I said that. their response was basically, yeah, they're coming to get you, Barbara.
Yep. What a
Stop
delivery.
it! You're ignorant. Which is actually what she says. What a weird response. But it's the '60s.
I mean, that's not a movie where the characters behave too normally, honestly.
No, Ben was probably the most rational one, which would explain, I guess, why he did as well as he did. Everyone else is kind of, you know, they spoke weird, they acted weird. He seemed the most relatable, which is
Yeah.
why, of course, the ending is what it is. One of the more stunning and surprising endings. When I had the advantage of seeing it without knowing what the ending was. And so when I saw it,
Ooh.
it was like, oh, wow, they were doing twist endings way back then. This is great.
Yeah, that ending, that ending is,
Dark.
yes.
Surprisingly dark for a movie of that time. But I think that helps to make it what it is. I like the ending. It's one where I wouldn't change. I mean, it's shocking and it's sad, and it's also a subtle commentary on the times. But yeah, I could see why it would have possibly upset some people.
You believe Romero when he said that he didn't intend for Ben to be black? He just cast that actor because he did the best audition.
I actually do, because I personally don't think that the movie was meant to be quite as much of a commentary on the civil rights and all that as I think a lot of people do. Like, I'm no scholar. For all I know, I could be horribly wrong, and it could have been like the entire point of the movie. In which case, obviously, I'm talking on my ass. But like when I saw it, I could see the parallels, but I thought that they were
Yeah.
more inferred than intended.
Yeah, I've thought the same myself. As like the way, at least it seems like the script definitely was written to fit really any ethnicity into the role, and it was just supposed to be regular old tensions with the dad. But like, I could see where they kind of did like recognize maybe that was going on and maybe lean into it a little bit in the movie.
Yeah, I think so too, because from what I could tell, Romero just simply liked casting diversely. He
Yeah,
he just simply, if
I
an
mean,
actor, like again, like Ken Foree, he was there anything special about the fact that he was black in Dawn of the Dead? No, he just happened to be a black guy. And I think that was his casting
yeah.
methodology. Yeah, so I
It
don't
was
think it was like, hey, wouldn't it be great if, yeah, go ahead.
for Romero, it's just a tradition. You have a white. He had two protagonists in every movie. One was a white chick, the other was a non-white male. And to such
Yeah,
a degree that when Capcom was putting him on Resident Evil the movie at first, before they decided actually this is too accurate to the games, fuck you.
yeah. What are you doing trying to make a good movie based on our property that we came up with based on your films?
You silly old shit.
Yeah. Let's get this hack instead.
But when he did that, you remember he made it so in the script that Chris would be Native American.
Yeah, and if I recall correctly, Barry was black.
Oh, that Barry! You've told me that before, and I forgot it before.
I
That's
could be wrong, but that's my memory. I didn't read the
I
whole
could.
script. I only read the first few pages.
If you're gonna have a Blackberry, I could see Ken Foree as a Blackberry at that age,
I
at
absolutely
that time.
could too. Yes.
And now I'm popping at the IFD of Ken Foree saying a lot of Barry's lines.
He was made for him.
I have this.
I was just gonna say, I got this.
Jill, take these. They're especially good at killing living things.
Yeah. Why not? Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I could see it too, for sure. Yeah, he wrote a script that was put online. My cousin, who's I've said it before, he's like the fucking horror guy. I mean, if I want to, you think I know about movies, he knows as much, if not more, actually probably far more, but about the horror genre specifically. He's not as big about movies unless they're horror. Then he knows more than I do. Like, he
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to know Oscars and shit like that, although he is really good. But yeah, if you want to talk about like, oh hey, what was this B movie actress that was cast in this one Italian movie, this horror movie from 1974 or whatever, he'll know. He'll be able to cross-reference it with some other guy who was in whatever, some other like, Romanian horror movie from the 80s. He'll know all that kind of shit. Yeah, he's all over it.
You want to hear about Dario Argento?
Oh, he'll tell you all about Dario Argento. He names drop Argento often. He's the first person I knew who told me about Argento's daughter. What's her name?
Asia Argento.
It is, yes, Asia Argento. Yeah, or Asia Argento rather. Yeah, I was like, he's got a daughter. He's like, oh yeah, and then he just started telling me all about her and what movie she was in, and I think she might even be a director now, something like that. And it's he's I mean, he's been to
I
like every fucking horror convention. He's met all the horror stars. He's all over it. Go ahead.
I think Asia Argento is in several of Dario's movies, and she's naked in several.
That's what he said. Yeah, he talked to me about how naked she is at one point or another. And I'm like, hey, that's great. I should check that out. And I don't know if I ever did. I don't know why I wouldn't have, but I don't recall. I
Well,
don't
my
recall the
memory
results.
is when I looked into it, I looked into it a little bit, and I remember reading in passing that she was nude in several of his movies, and I was finding that like, oh, that's fucking weird.
Kind of weird. Yeah, a little bit weird. Hey, let's make a movie and put my naked daughter in it. Okay. I mean, thanks, but go away now.
Yeah, it's like, did you see I did see that clip of Stephanie and Shane you sent me.
Oh yeah, I didn't respond to it because I figured we'd be talking again soon. Yeah, where he just casually looks over. He actually looks right down at them for like a good second. Oh, you have cute little puppies. Thanks,
Yeah,
thanks. You didn't have to say that out loud. Thanks.
yeah, and
But
that
yeah, I did forget the detail that you said that, yeah, she was like, well, Vince talks about them in one way or another, which is already fucking weird. Compares me to a girl that's got implants. Okay. A
God
little
damn it.
gross.
Deborah's the fucking sexiest. I need you to be like her.
I, yeah. Yeah, that's the Vince we know.
Like like
I
you
like,
kind of like Deborah's kind of forgotten by a lot of wrestling history, but there was a good period where they were pushing the shit out of her just because. Hey, look, boobs.
really? That must have been before Sable then, because Sable was the same typical, as Jim Cornette says, the girl with the blonde with the pneumatic tits. And he said her only talent was having for her only talent was for picking a good surgeon, a good plastic surgeon, which I would even argue against that, but whatever.
At that time, there
So
weren't that
yeah,
many
Deborah
good
must
ones.
have come first. No, to be fair, yeah, they've changed quite a bit. I've said before that now it's gotten to the point to where I can, a guy who could easily spot implants from a mile away because usually they were that big. Yeah, now I've seen quite a few where it's like, really, those aren't real? Huh? Well, good for her. But every now and then, I'll still see the big, rigid, completely non-moving pieces of like hardcore marble, separated by a mile. They used to call them like landing strips. The girl had a landing strip on her chest because you could fucking land a plane there as far separate as those things were. Those are ghastly. And to my memory, Deborah had them, and so did Sable. Deborah
And
seemed nice though, so I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I was about to say I've seen interviews with Deborah, shoots with Deborah. She seemed very humble and very like, hell, me and Austin, we weren't good for each other, but he's still a good man. I'm still friends with him.
For her to say that, yeah, she's either naive and or nice. To be fair, they often go side and side. Uh, Yeah, yeah, I've never heard a shoot of hers, but she just, this is reading, way too much from way too little, but I remember on the pay-per-view on the Over the Edge where Owen died. Have you seen that, by the way? Have you actually seen
I
the,
have
I think probably a
I've
lot of it is available
never
now.
I of course know that it obviously doesn't show Owen dying because my God. But
Correct.
I've already heard about the match where Jeff Jarrett thinks that he sees Owen's bloodstain, and that bothered me enough.
Did you say the match where he thinks he does? Because it's crystal clear. It's right fucking there. Unless,
So
like, I
it's
didn't
the
watch the whole
blood is
pay-per-view,
if
so it might have been
memory
somebody.
serves, the blood is from an earlier match where somebody got color. But it's a blood stain on the apron
Oh.
from another guy got color, or a blood stain on the stairs, right? It would have to be on the stairs because they change aprons after bleeding.
You see, I remember you saying that. I had a couple questions about that, but first, what I can first say is that in the pay-per-view there is an unmissable big smear right next to one of the turnbuckles, and Owen did die. There's actually photos of him being worked on right there at the base of a turnbuckle inside the ring.
Yeah,
So
I
from what I could tell, piecing together the imagery, I thought it was from Owen, but I did not watch the whole pay-per-view.
my understanding is that it's from where someone got color earlier in the night. They didn't. That there may have been some after effect of Owen's fall that could be observed, but my understanding was it wasn't that explicit. But nonetheless, there is like I said, what I remember was I've seen a picture of it, which was that there was a big blood stain left from earlier in the match where someone had got color. And Jeff Jarrett, at one point during his match later in the night with, I think, the Godfather or somebody.
Owen was supposed to face Godfather, so I'm not sure.
Oh, that's right. They delayed the Godfather. Right. Jeff Jarrett went against Godfather on Raw like the next
Because
week
of that?
and won the Intercontinental belt in Owen's honor. And he when he wins the belt, he looks to the sky and shouts Owen.
I see.
But either way, when Jeff Jarrett sees the bloodstain, you can see like his fucking eyes bulge out of his skull, and he looks
Ugh.
like when they say like looks like they saw a ghost. Jeff
A
Jarrett looked like he
ghost.
saw a fucking ghost.
Yeah, I can believe that based on your description. I'd have to look into that then, because I did. Well, I guess that brings us back to the question I was going to ask. I didn't until you mentioned it. I'd never heard that they changed the ring or the mat, the canvas. It normally takes hours for them to put together a mat. So how do you know that that's a
Now
thing, and when did it become a thing?
nowadays they change the canvas between every match.
Really? I mean,
I
because
be-
I've seen shows live and they never did that. So I don't know when they. I'm
when would
not
that
saying that you're
have
lying
been?
or you're wrong. 80s. So it could have been late 90s or later, maybe. I mean, it takes a while for them to do that, though. Like I've heard stories about the Ring Boys. I've seen like some of the tools they do to get it together, and it takes again. It's not like a 2 minute thing. It's hours to set up a mat. But I guess maybe the canvas
Well,
is now a removal. I mean, with everything being electronic now, like the ring posts and everything, maybe the mats are now a special separate type of thing that just like slips on.
I think that's the case. It's difficult to say. I've never seen it put together. I've just heard Cornette say that. Well, Cornette was being asked about ring mats on one episode of the podcast, uh,
Okay.
and he was saying like, and you know Cornette. Cornette will shit on everything in modern wrestling and say that everything in the territory days was better. And oh my god, oh goddamn, these fucking goddamn motherfucks nowadays. These motherfuckers don't know motherfuck. But like,
Sounds about right. Yes, that's shorthand. Yeah.
it was yeah, it was the ring mats they were asked about. Cornette was asked about the ring mats, and he was saying like, oh goddamn, back in the territory days they stunk so fucking bad, and there you'd see the sweat of the last
Oh.
fucking guy to wrestle there, and goddamn motherfucker, it was smelly as shit, and you'd get all kinds of diseases and get sick from it. It fucking sucked. One of the only
Okay.
good things they got going nowadays with this fucking wrestling nowadays, they changed the fucking mats between every match, so they're fucking clean. I like that.
All right. Yeah. I believe that then, based on all that. I mean, he's again. I believe that he's biased and hypocritical, but honest. And as you said, he doesn't really have a whole lot of reason to put stuff over now. Well, that is subjective. Ask him, and he doesn't have a lot of reason to put modern stuff over. So for
Yeah,
him to
there are
say that,
AEW
that
fans who think that Cornette is a fucking sleeper agent for WWE. Yes.
they. eh, as a quick sideline, did you hear that CM Punk did a shoot, like a 2-hour shoot, talking all about everything
Yeah,
that's happened
with
over the last
Ariel
couple years?
Helwani, yes. Because
Yeah, I have
did
not.
you
You
hear
say that
about
in a
the
very
first?
dire way.
Did you not hear about the Ariel Helwani drama a year ago?
I guess I didn't.
So Ariel Helwani is a very, very respected MMA journalist, and not in a Dave Meltzer respected MMA journalist kind of way, where he's not really respected, but he successfully fooled the mainstream media into thinking he's respected. Like legit respected, like MMA guys love to talk with Ariel because Ariel's very fair. He'll ask important questions, and he'll sometimes ask the question the questions they're seen as being what's the word? Like going against what people would expect because it might cause drama. The kinds of questions they're like you wouldn't expect the interview to ask it because they don't want to cause trouble, sort of dealing. Like
Yeah,
he's very open. He's very candid. He asks very direct questions.
he was
He's
in that. I mean, I think it could have changed, but he was there. He was the one who's doing the Sean and Stephanie interview that I sent you, and he seemed pretty, not necessarily confrontational, but he didn't throw a lot of softballs. He
yeah,
seemed like
yeah.
he asked
That's
some good questions.
he's not like a dick interviewer that comes in deliberately trying to start a fight and go, "I'm better than you." But at the same time, a lot of MMA guys and I guess now wrestlers like him because he's also not, he's also not softballing you. And if you prefer that kind of interviewer, then he's very good for that. But a couple of years ago, he was interviewing people from both WWE and AEW when he got the chance. And he had a relatively good relationship with AEW, though he was relatively vocally critical about it at a couple points. But there was some instance of they were in the town that Ariel Helwani was based off of. WWE was there for some pay-per-view. I think it was Elimination Chamber or something. Either way, and they had Ariel Helwani actually come in the crowd and say, "Hey, we're here in Montreal. We're having a great time here. It's a grand old time. It's a good show. We're having a good time." And this was right after Ariel Helwani, I think, had already done an interview with Punk or somebody else that had been very critical with AEW, and Ariel was very critical of AEW in that interview, basically saying, like, I used to think there was a lot of good things going on at AEW, but now I'm not so sure. So it's a 1-2 punch of him doing an interview where he was very critical of AEW, and then he appears at an actual WWE show to hype the place up. So Tony Khan goes fucking berserk on Twitter, saying like, "You are a fake journalist. You are bullshit. You are biased. You are like
Oh boy.
really everything you could sling at Meltzer. He slung at Ariel Helwani."
You're
And
ugly and you have big ears.
ever since, none of the AEW guys have interviewed with Helwani. It's only been WWE guys.
Wow. Okay.
So
Interesting. Yeah,
yeah,
I
and
did hear
that's
that.
why
Oh, go on.
that's why Punk went on there and was very, very honest.
I see. Well, good for him. That's good. Yeah. I mean, good for Ariel for apparently, based on everything that's been said here, being a good interview, and also for for Punk for saying, well, hell, I'm going to go to the the straightforward guy who's well. It also could be maybe. I mean, I would assume that he chose him because he's going to be straightforward and tell the truth and be honest. But it also could be because he is enemies now apparently with Tony Khan, and he figured that'd be
Yeah.
a good guy to go to now to talk about Tony Khan. I don't know. He didn't seem to. I mean, I didn't watch the whole interview, but I read highlights, and he doesn't
What
seem
he
to bury Tony Khan. Yeah,
No,
go ahead.
what he says is he's a very friendly guy,
Like
but
he's
you
too
don't
nice
want.
to be a boss.
Yeah, you don't want him as a boss.
Right.
I did
Yeah,
crack
that's
up at fucking. I only choked Jungle Boy a little bit.
yeah. He said, yeah, I didn't punch anybody. I just choked a guy a little bit. Which is, he said it with what I didn't see it. I heard it. Like somebody played the clip. I think it was actually on Jim Cornette. Now that I think about it, he did the highlights, and he played a little clip of it, and it sounded like I could detect a little bit of smile in Punk's voice, but I can't say for sure. I'd have to watch the interview.
It's difficult to say. Punk's one of those guys who can put something through like 5 layers of irony.
Yeah, that's true, and that's coming from somebody who doesn't like him. I remember you don't care too much for Punk.
Yeah, I think he's very overrated. I'm kind of actually enjoying his modern run, but I'm not gonna lie and pretend that it's not at least partly because of him thumbing his nose at AEW.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was gonna ask what was different, but there you go. I mean, to be fair though, he doesn't really have much of a modern run, does he? He had like 2 matches when he got injured again.
Yeah, for televised stuff,
He's
he
supposed to
had
be-
a match.
He had a match with Ray that I saw, which
No,
was decent. It was okay.
Dom.
No, Dominic. Yes, you're right. It was decent. He looked a little out of shape, but whatever, it's fine. He looked like he'd probably be kind of getting back in the spring of things, or whatever, the swing of things. And
Ted looked that match up and said it was one of the worst matches he'd ever seen, and that Punk should be ashamed
no,
of
that's
himself.
Ted. No, it was fine. It wasn't great. It was more or less, it was a standard TV match. It was fine. And why are you just laughing because of Ted?
Yeah.
Yeah. Shame
There's just
himself.
something.
Has Ted ever say anything good about Punk?
No, I don't think.
I didn't.
I don't think he said anything good about Punk that I can recall in like the. Ooh, not since he had the feud with MJF. That's the last time Ted would have had anything positive to say about Punk.
When was that? Was that this year?
No, that was a good couple of years ago, because that was when
That
was early on in Punk's AEW run.
Okay. Yeah. It's it's Ted. And again, I'm fine with him having his own opinion. It just seems like his opinion is usually pretty binary. Usually, he will often, not as much as he claims, but he will often see both sides and say, well, this or that. Sure, I'll give a little credit where it's due. He will do that sometimes, but not nearly as much as I think is objective.
There's not really.
He's always hated Punk because Punk left when he felt Punk shouldn't have left.
Yeah, and because Ted loves to present his opinions in a very exaggerated manner, sometimes he catches you off guard. Like, oh yeah, Ted loves that wrestler, and Ted goes, oh no, I just think they're kind of like him. And it's like, really? Because you act like you fucking love them. No, I'm just, I think they're okay. I have to stop and remind myself, like, oh yeah, Ted really just enjoys having over the top reactions to things.
He does, which I do too. I enjoy hyperbole. I enjoy, I don't know, exaggerated stuff, I guess, which is one of the reasons why I love, politically incorrect humor. I think it's, I just simply find the N-word funny. I just do. Like I know why it's a horrible word. I know why it was used in such a horrible, I know all that. Like, I'm not ignorant to that. I just find it funny. I think it's a funny sounding word. I think the idea of just walking up to a guy and saying, hey, that word. That's hilarious to me. But same with, any number of other slurs that I could say on this, on this podcast, or on this recording, but won't, which, denigrate other people's. I find all
Yeah.
that stuff funny. So yeah, so I find it very fun to hyperbolically say like, oh man, I the other day, or not the other day, but like the other week, I can't remember when it was, but you said something like, oh yeah, Charlotte's whatever, she's out for a long time, she's injured, whatever, and I was like, good. And I can't remember who it was. You mentioned somebody else who like neither of us have any problem with, and you're like, oh yeah, they're hospitalized or something. They're not coming back either. And oh, it was Virgil. He was like, Virgil died. And I said, good.
Yeah, that one was real.
Yeah,
That one caught me really off guard because we've talked about it before about like, hey, Virgil seems like a nice guy.
yeah, I have no
Also,
problem at all with Virgil.
like, there's a clip out there of 50 Cent. I don't know what the context is, but it's 50 Cent like talking to his phone, some kind of FaceTime or such shenanigans. And I've only ever seen the clip, and it's like only a 5-second clip of 50 Cent looking at his phone and pointing at himself and going, I mean, what did he say fuck me for? And I've always, I just think of that in situations like where it's like, but why?
Yeah, what did Virgil do? Nothing. He was just not spectacular, so because of that, fuck him. Yeah, I love that kind of shit. Yeah, yeah, it's just funny to me. So yeah, to some extent, I mean, I don't think that Knight is Ted is definitely whatever it was I said. I don't think that he's necessarily going for the same effect for the same reasons, but he does also seem to enjoy hyperbole in the same way that I do.
Yeah,
Shock, I guess, so to speak, even if it's not necessarily shocking, but that kind of like over the top. Ted likes being over the top. I think is fair to say.
yeah,
So yeah, I can appreciate that. Yeah, I just never quite understood why, like again, what I got of his initial reaction was that he hated Punk simply because Punk. I mean, his reasons at that time weren't this, but they were contemporaneous with Punk walking out. Of WWE. And he was like, oh, well, that's what an asshole to do that. And I was like, well, but if you listen to his interview, he was like super injured and he'd like begged for like changes and they said that they would do them and they never did. And he was very upset and he said, I'll do this and that and the other. And they didn't meet eye to eye with him. So eventually he got fed up and, chose not to renew his contract or whatever and quit. Well, yeah, he's an asshole. And I'm like, well, fine. You go work a job that you despise and then somehow have the whatever the wherewithal, whatever the good humor to just just hate it miserably and it ruins your life and you still stay with it anyway. Yeah, you do that. Go ahead, be the one guy in the world who's ever done that. Prove Punk a liar, or not a liar, but an asshole.
yeah. It's one of those things. I think it's one of those things where it's. I mean, like, I think more than anything else, a lot of it is like how much. Well, again, both you guys are prone to overexposure, right? How much of it is just simply.
Oh yeah.
Ted got fucking sick of seeing people on the internet saying that CM Punk is the best wrestler in the world. Oh my god, dude, he doesn't know what to do with him. Dude, he should push him to the moon and give him every belt. They should be Ultimo Dragoning him.
Yeah, I could see somebody be like if he just simply said that, and I'm not saying that he was lying. I mean, he could very well have been. I'm sure to him he was telling the truth about being pissed at Punk because of all these other reasons, like you just said. But he just at that time never seemed to really dwell on those, or at least not from what I saw. He was more about he had no right to leave essentially, or he let no, not that he didn't have a right, but he was a bitch to do it. Like he was a bitch. He took his ball and he went home. And I'm like, well, I mean, yeah, kinda, but that's because everything was miserable and he hated it. And he told them multiple times, I hate it, please do something else, and they never did. So of course you're eventually gonna leave. What the fuck? But yeah, if he were just, simply fed up with, and not that he owes anyone this explanation, but if in fact the real reason was that he was just fed up with hearing about Punk and thought that he was overrated, sick hearing about, as you said, how hard he should have been pushed, which I can understand because I never thought that Punk was that great either. I like him, but I never really saw him as being like one of the best ever. So yeah, I mean, if that was the case, yeah, I can't knock the guy for being tired of seeing him and hearing it.
Yeah, I think especially, my God, that time period where it was just relentless. I mean, you and I were both on the THQ forums for time periods where people would just be like, "Oh my God, Daniel Bryan is the best ever of all time. He should be given all the bells."
All the bells, yeah. That was, yeah. I don't know when that went away. That was such a normal thing for me.
Those people didn't go. Those people are still around. They just went to AEW.
You're probably right. Yeah, I think you're probably right. Yeah, because I was hearing about that pretty hard right around the time that Daniel Bryan was at like the height of his popularity, the whole Yes era thing, which I wasn't watching at the time, so I didn't really understand why that was even a thing. The whole Yes thing, whatever. You know how I am about that kind of shit.
Daniel
But
Bryan was a little
yeah, it's
bit
like,
too
oh,
complex for the peons and plebeians to understand before, so now we've given him a simple catchphrase.
exactly. Yeah, it's like, okay, I remember. So he says yes, and they're making new T-shirts based on the fact that he got a beard. That's how people get pushed. Okay, shrug.
Yeah.
You know, but I saw that he was a good wrestler, and so it was like, well, cool. I'm glad they're pushing him. Blah 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 blah.
God damn it,
But
pal.
yeah, like I was. Go ahead. What?
This
Go
bearded
ahead.
fucking,
Go ahead, Vince.
this bearded fucking midget motherfucker will make a t-shirt out of his beard, I guess.
That seems like the mentality. We don't know what to do with him, so let's just make a T-shirt out of his fucking beard. He grew like his facial hair changed. Let's make a new T-shirt. Like really? That's how I felt at the time. Really?
It seems like one of those
Guess
things
so.
Vince thought was a rib at the time, but it just took off.
Yeah. That's probably how it went too. It's
Because
just like, okay, this will
that
be a
is not
joke. But no,
Vince's
people love
type,
it.
a heavily bearded vegan man.
That's true too. Yeah, heavily bearded, small vegan man. Small even by like small wrestler standards. Like he
Yeah.
was like 5'8", which I mean I'm 5'8", so that's whatever. But I'm just saying I'd be small for a wrestler too. But also like whatever, like 170 pounds. I mean he was just a little guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I'm happy for him that he made it. That's cool. But yeah, I just the build I didn't get, and just the sheer unrelenting worship that he got at that time. It was like, well, I mean, I couldn't say because I wasn't watching at that time. It's like, well, I guess he's probably pretty good then if that many people love him. And I've said before that I did see a match, a triple threat between him and I always get the other guys wrong. Him and Christopher Daniels and Low Key, who I
Yeah.
otherwise know nothing about. But it was sensational. It was one of the best matches I've literally ever seen in my life. It was fantastic. Like
Yeah.
it was like a three-way where it was like there was always like an understandable reason for why one of the two guys was out of the ring, and he was never out for long. It was always like just the match just kept on moving. It was just like boom, 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 never stopped. And it was oh god, it was good. And that's the match that I saw him before he went to WWE and started getting big. So I was like, oh, that guy. Yeah, okay. I don't. It's stupid that they changed his name. I get it. That's what they do. But otherwise, yeah, cool. Good for him. He's a really good wrestler. But yeah, again, like best ever. The whole Yes thing. I was like, I don't know. I guess I wasn't there to see it all.
Yeah.
So, oh yeah. Anyway, but yeah, talking about Punk. Yeah, when people started saying that about Punk, I was like, well, like really? I mean, he can talk, but is he really that good of a wrestler? He's okay.
I think
He's
part of
not
it is that
bad. Yeah.
fans that came up with the Attitude Era were just that eager to try and get a new Austin, and they saw Punk as the new Austin.
Oh God, you're probably right because he really, really did get big with. He was always relatively popular. I never thought that he was unpopular, but yeah, he fucking exploded with the quote unquote pipe bomb
Which
promo, which I always
still
thought that was a
fucking
stupid term.
hate.
Uh, you hate it or the fact that he got over because of it? Probably both, huh?
Both.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fair.
And dumb
I
Mark
mean, do you actually think it was a
motherfuckers.
bad promo though? Well,
No, I don't think it was a bad promo.
but you do think it was fake.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I can't speak for it. It seemed relatively legit to me. I mean, some of the stuff that he said, like mentioning the other territories and all that, saying that Triple H had like a big dumb nose or something like that, and talking about how Stephanie was a bimbo. They've all allowed stuff like that before, but for just the stream of it all at once like that, and the tone of it, plus also threatening like, hey, maybe I'm gonna go to one of these other promotions, and I'll put it this way, I could see it as being fake or real. Like I bought it enough to say this could be legit. To an extent. Obviously, they wouldn't let him go out there with the microphone and say whatever he wanted with, like, oh, yeah, just go out there with the mic and we will just say literally anything. You can say cunt, fuck, shit, cunt. We won't stop you. No, they're going to okay what he's going to say. But I do think that he took some latitude. I believe that it was a little bit of both.
I'm willing to bet what it is just simply, like Paul Heyman has talked before about how Vince at one point told him, I want you to go out there and shoot, just say... What he said, and Paul said, okay, well, what do you want me to aim for? And Vince said, just go out there and make me money. And I'm willing to bet it's...
I could totally see that.
Like, Punk was probably going out there
just make me money.
understandably like, okay, there's stuff that will get me in trouble to say, but I've been given largely carte blanche other than that. To me, that's the
And
most logical. And what?
yes, I agree. I think that's also probably the most likely situation. But being that's the case, you're still I don't know what the word would be, not offended, but you're still I guess just irritated by the fact that the audience took it the way they did. You thought that they built or a bit too much into it. You think that, because I mean you were, for example, you were just calling them marks for believing it.
Yeah.
So you think that it's just, no matter what, you think that they believed it too much. You think that it was still semi fake, and that is as real as it could have been in part. You still think that they're idiots for believing it.
Yeah, I think it's much more work shoot than real shoot.
Okay. Yeah, it's fair to have that impression. I can't say. I guess none of us know for sure. It's more than likely a work shoot because, again, like I highly doubt anyone was like, just, you know what, say whatever you want. Trash us. Call us. Horrible people. Do whatever. It's fine. But also though, as you said, Vince. I could believe Vince saying, well, go ahead and say whatever you want as long as it makes us money. Be hot. Be controversial. Go ahead. Get people talking.
Yeah.
So it's like that doesn't mean that it's not a work, because obviously he still would have had permission to go out and do it. But I do think that he probably, and this is just my belief, there's no proof, but I do believe that he probably went a little further than they probably would have liked. That's just my impression. But again, we don't know for sure, so yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, I can't see him going beyond what Vince wants, and Vince still saying, "Okay, we're going to give you the belt next pay-per-view."
Is that what wound up happening?
Yeah. Punk got the belt at the
It
very
is.
next
Okay.
pay-per-view.
Okay. Well, yeah. Kind of makes you. Yeah. There's some questions there for sure. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I guess I just don't know. I don't feel confident enough about it either way to say that I feel that it's too strongly one way or the other. He was famously cut off at the end of it. He was talking and suddenly the mic went out and he shrugged like, okay, well, I guess that's that. Do you feel that part was real?
Nope.
Really? All the way down him being cut off? You thought that was all just completely staged?
Yes, I think that would be the great way to make it look like it wasn't staged.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong.
I
Right.
would have absolutely made that call. I would make that call for any work shoot, is that the mic needs to be cut off sooner rather than later. I would have definitely cut it off way sooner than that. Because otherwise it's obvious it's a work.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. And now, so how would you feel about Punk had that not happened? I know we're talking about hypotheticals, but like, were you like still okay with him? Just kind of like, well, I don't like him, but I don't hate him or anything.
Well, the funny thing is that I really liked Yellow and Black Trunks Punk.
That was 2010 to 11, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was like Straight Edge Society Punk. That was like New Nexus Punk, which admittedly I'm not a fan of the Nexus in general as an angle. I thought that was just kind of, that wasn't going to work in a lot of contexts. Like, Cena definitely buried that angle, and well, I won't blame Cena per se, but the way they booked Cena definitely buried that angle before it could even really start. But I also don't think that an Invasion stable would have worked quite that well with those talents. If it was like the NWO was a partly an angle that had to work off the basis that all three of those dudes were stars. All three of the lead dudes of NWO were stars. Nexus, there's Wade. I could believe Wade could somewhat carry part of it, but the trouble is there's other guys in that group.
I could believe Wade going over. The problem is there were more people that weren't Wade.
Yeah,
fair enough.
And like Husky Harris was there for like a minute, but nobody remembers him being in the NXT, and he was of course like a year or two off from being Bray Wyatt, which was a very different story.
Yeah, the only reason people even seem to remember Husky Harris was originally because they were using that against Bray Wyatt when he first debuted. I remember seeing a clip of his debut as Bray Wyatt, and a lot of people were chanting Husky Harris, which just that's the kind of fan shit that just irritates me.
Oh, I despise
we
those
acknowledge
fans.
that you're a different person. Just, dude, we get it. Fuck off. Who cares? It's wrestling. Get a grip. Sorry, what were you saying?
Yeah, the fucking hijack the show fans are the fucking worst.
Yes. And about such a stupid thing, like you fucked up, you fucked up. Oh, because God knows we acknowledge they're performers. That's fine, but no, they have to be perfect performers. We have to call them out when they make any kind of human error.
We want
Just
tables.
all of that shit. I hate the modern fans, and I hate the fact that so many of the chants are 5 syllables or 4 syllables rather. It's 4 syllables, 5 claps. Blah 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 blah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Blah blah. I hate that so much. I can't even put it into words. I don't know
Oh,
how
it's
you guys put
fucking...
up with it. I really
We
don't.
don't anymore because they jumped to AEW, those fans did.
Oh, good, good. Fuck them. Good. That's not really a big thing in WWE anymore, really. The
And it'll
stupid.
pop up every now and then, but it's definitely died down quite a bit.
Oh, thank God.
God,
Yeah. Whenever I'd see clips.
I remember
Yeah.
in
Go
my
ahead.
time that the main event angles would be going on Raw in late 2011. And while it was somebody else cutting a promo, the fans would be chanting, "We want Ryder. We want
Oh.
Ryder."
Oh.
And like,
Even just
the
the idea of. Yeah. No. Go on. I'm sorry.
obviously neither of us here are fond of The Rock, but the fucking Rock had to stop mid promo and go like, okay, yes, Zack Ryder is cool. Can you guys pay attention here?
Did he actually say something like that?
He did more like he stopped to like put Ryder over for just a quick minute. Like, yes, Zack Ryder, a very talented man. I'm also interested in what he's going to do. Now, okay, back to my promo on Cena.
Okay, good. Yeah, good for him. That kind of shit. It just to me, even the concept alone of fans chanting "We want anything," it's like you want whatever the fuck you want. This isn't just about serving you. This is about doing what we want and hoping you're willing to pay to enjoy it. Like we
There are
want. Like what kind of
storylines
fucking
going
entitlement is
on
that?
right.
Make the show about me.
There are storylines going on screen right now, sir. Do you want it to be abruptly cut off so Zack Ryder can just come out and fucking whack his dick?
A lot of people would too. That's the kind of shit that's part of what makes me hate it. Because people are like, okay, yeah, whatever you're doing, fine. Who cares? We want something else. So regardless of how much time or effort or money or resources or negotiation or whatever went into what you're doing now, no, I'm not satisfied. I want something else because it's all about what I personally want.
Okay,
Just
do you remember the
yeah,
little
go ahead.
speech
Go ahead.
Vince had to do when he faked his death by limo explosion, and then the next fucking week Benoit died? And
I don't remember what. No.
Vince went out and did a little speech saying, like, okay, yes, I know that last time you saw me on television, I exploded. However, that was fake. That was a storyline. Chris Benoit is legitimately dead. We are stopping the Vince McMahon death storyline right now. We are not going to go forward with that. It is just going to be about Chris Benoit tonight, and for the foreseeable future, because they didn't at that time know that he had killed his wife and son.
Oh, on the tribute show. Yeah, yes. Yeah, tonight you're right. Yeah, that was a storyline, but this is really when we want to honor the guy. Yeah.
Yeah,
That part I did see, yes.
Yeah, and they never did anything with the whole Vince exploding thing ever again. It was effectively the only time in wrestling that the promoter just came on screen and said, "This angle is done. We are not going to finish this."
They just completely abandoned the Vince death thing just altogether. It's just done forever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing ever came of it. Like
Okay.
and like there's some angles that got cut off, and then they'd like joke about it by having like Hornswoggle come back a couple years later and go, "Ah, it was me, yeah." But like
that was the GM thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that was entirely the GM thing. Was they forgot to book a finale to it, and when Vince remembered, he was like, "Ah, fuck it, it's Hornswoggle."
That sounds about right.
Like they never came back and went like, "Who blew up Vince and how did Vince survive the?" They never came back and answered that. Like. Like, it really is just like I have to imagine, for someone who, imagine someone who doesn't stick around on the IWC stuff, who doesn't know the wrestling history, but nonetheless, for some reason, decides they're going to go through on the network and watch through the Raws historically, episode by episode. Imagine what it must be like for them to watch the episode where Vince explodes, and they know Vince is still around.
Going through the catalog, like, where's the episode where they explain this? This is a big thing to miss. They had to have dealt with this. Where is it? Where's the missing part?
Oh
yeah,
boy! Yeah, the Chris Benoit tribute show ain't on the network.
Yeah, that's right too. Yeah, where's the Chris Benoit tribute show? Oh right, there were things changed, didn't they?
Yeah, that person simultaneously. That person watches Vince explodes and Chris Benoit disappears and they never acknowledge it.
That's true, actually.
Imagine
Not
if
only
they
does
never
Chris Benoit,
if they never look up Chris Benoit's Wikipedia page or anything. So for them, Chris Benoit just fucking disappears.
I mean, to be fair, you'd have to be pretty under the ground to not know what happened. But yeah, like if you're let's say for example like a younger wrestling fan, you just don't know details like that, you don't understand. Then yeah, be like, well, what? Why did he quit wrestling? What happened? Oh.
So you remember that's what happened to Pink.
Oh, it is?
Remember? Yeah, Pink said that he dropped out of wrestling for several years when
Oh,
Benoit was
that's
one of
right.
his
He was just saying
favorites.
that. Right.
And he comes back to
Yeah.
wrestling to find that Benoit's not there, and he's like, well, where's Benoit? And he has to look it up and go, oh.
Well, wait, then how the hell did he not know about it? How do you miss something like that?
Well, you
I
can
guess it
ask
wasn't
him
as
next
big
time,
in-
I guess. Like,
I'm gonna have to. Weirdo.
I don't know. He wasn't allowed to have Pokemon as a kid because they were satanic. So that was just kind of the household they were, I think.
Well, I can understand, not wanting to sell a murderer. If they're taking away Pokemon cards, they probably weren't celebrating, whatever, not patricide, the opposite. Murdering your wife and child, and then killing yourself. That probably wasn't a big thing.
What was the term for when you
murder
a child?
I
Because fratricide is
there
your
is
brother
one.
if you kill your sibling.
No. Patricide is your parent.
Oh, I thought you said fratricide.
Oh no. I'm sorry, I said patricide.
Filiacide? I don't know.
I don't know. I just don't know. I've got to draw a blank on that one. Whatever it is, it's funny. So there's my goofy sense of humor.
Oh,
I
man.
remember
The Punk interview, though. Yeah, what was it about the Punk interview you want to bring up?
I'm trying to link to how we got from one to the other to try and figure out exactly what my question was. Essentially, it was, well, I know you were talking about how you liked Punk in 2010 and 2011, roughly before the pipe bomb stuff. And I guess I was just kind of, just generally speaking, I guess, until we started talking about or are you going all the way back to when we first began talking about Punk altogether?
Yeah, you brought up the interview with Ariel Helwani.
Let's see. We were talking about the ring, the blood in the ring. Over the edge.
Yeah, that was Owen.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of why we brought that up, why we got to talking about that to begin with. Because you mentioned that it was you said that it was Cornette who was talking about the rings being changed.
The mats, yes.
Yeah, I'm trying to think how we got into that, why that was because I remember even at the time I was like, oh yeah, I want to ask you about that, but before I do, let me continue asking about the Owen thing. So how did we get to talking about the Owen thing? Why did we talk about Owen falling over the edge? Did you just make a random throwaway comment about Owen and I jumped on it with the over the edge thing?
No, I think what first came up was I was remembering Jeff Jarrett being spooked by the bloodstain.
Okay, so we were talking about Deborah and Jeff Jarrett. Were we talking about Deborah first? Deborah and the implants and all that? And because I remember I said that about... wait. Deborah goes back to the Stephanie
Okay, we got
thing.
we got to Punk from Punk to Deborah by Stephanie.
The Stephanie interview. Yeah, go ahead.
We got to talking about how Deborah seems perfectly nice. I said that I saw her in a shoot interview. You said you'd never heard her in a shoot interview. You were talking about seeing her in something else. Was it Over the Edge?
I'm trying to think of how Over the Edge got brought up, because I know I mentioned it with respect to, again, the blood stain, and you were obviously talking about it with relation to his relation to Owen's blood. So how did one of us bring up Over the Edge? Who brought it up first and why? Because I'm trying to pull back from that. Yeah, I'm thinking. At the moment, nothing's coming to mind. I'm drawing a blank. I'm drawing a complete blank. I remember you asked me. You said that you had seen the Shane and Stephanie interview, and I was like, oh yeah, I didn't comment on that because I figured that we'd be talking later, and I thought that I'd talk to you about it then. Why did you bring that up?
because we were talking about Punk doing an interview, and that made me think of wrestling interviews.
Oh, so it keeps going in circles. Okay, then yeah, then why did I bring up Punk?
You brought up Punk
Well,
because
I know. Yeah, because I brought up Punk because we were talking about the interviews. Oh, then why did I bring up the interview? Okay, wait. So if
no,
you brought
you
up the interview
brought
talking
Punk
about
came up
Punk,
before Stephanie did. Before Stephanie and Deborah and all that came up, Punk came up.
really?
Yes, we somehow got to Punk from like George Romero.
We were talking about Romero. That's right.
Shit.
Fuck. Yeah. Talking about the race, the characters' ethnicities in Romero movies. Talking about the Dawn of the Dead we were talking about sequels. We were talking about sequels to get to Dawn of the Dead, weren't we? That's how we arrived
Yes.
at Dawn of the Dead. Okay. Oh shit. Okay. How do we get from Dawn of the Dead how do we get from the Living Dead movies, Romero and so forth, to Stephanie and Shane and the interview and Punk and so forth? How did that all come about? What was the link there? How could there have even been a link there? I'm trying to figure out how any of that would work.
Yeah, I'm lost.
It's tough to go back on these. It's tough to look for the A's to Z's to make everything come together. Um, shit. Yeah, I want to know now. I want to know how we got from one to the next. And folks at home, I'm not being silent because I'm just not caring and trying to put it on Alex. I'm actually trying to think as well because I really want to know how we got there. What could we possibly said about the Dead movies, Ken Foree, etc.? We were talking about. Did it just okay? The breast thing was, I think, what started me on talking about Deborah and Sable, and then I think that is what got us to talking about the Shane and Stephanie, right? When I was talking about the implants.
I don't think so. We
No,
weren't
isn't that why
talking.
I brought up Stephanie? Because I was like, oh yeah, hey, talking about implants or whatever. Isn't that how I got brought? Oh no, that's right. No, that's how I brought.
Because no,
Well, yeah, it is.
I brought up Stephanie. No, I brought up Stephanie because we were talking about Punk interviews, and that made me think. Oh, speaking of wrestling interviews.
We were talking about. It feels like it's cyclical here. Like we're somehow
Like you're
mistaking a
trailing
step or something.
backwards in that regard because we only got to Deborah via Stephanie. Did we?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's one or the other because I am almost feeling like we got to Stephanie from Deborah. But if that's the case, why would I have brought up Deborah? Like somebody said something about implants. And I was talking about, yeah, they've gotten a lot better these days.
Well, what movie
Were we
would?
still
What?
talking about porn? Were we talking about the porn thing
No,
still?
that
No,
was a
I don't
long
think we
time
were.
ago.
I thought that, yeah, I agree with that. What were you going to say? Were we talking about what?
Was there a movie that led us to talking about it? I can't think of it.
I can't think of what movie it would have been. Because at first we were talking. That's where I'm starting to get a little gray here. We were talking about movies and sequels and so forth, and talking about Terminator 2. Like I remember where we were when we were talking about the Dead movies, the Romero movies, and we were talking about swapping the characters racially or whatever, talking about making Barry black, talking about making Chris Native American, and from there to the Stephanie and Deborah stuff, I'm missing that link. I'm not sure where we got there.
I don't know how we got that to Punk from there. I can tell you that we got
Well,
from Punk to Stephanie to Deborah.
I think the Punk and Stephanie thing, one way or the other, those one led to the other based on talking about just interviews, talking about shoot interviews.
Yes,
I
yes.
think like it was like, oh hey, by the way, did you also hear this interview by this other person? Which I think would have probably, as you said, I think that would have been me asking about Punk from the Stephanie and Shane thing. Like, oh hey, talking
I
about
think
interviews,
that's the
did you hear this
reverse
one?
of that.
Really?
Yeah, my memory is that
Maybe.
you brought up the Punk thing, and I was going like, "Oh, by the way, I watched that Stephanie and Shane clip you sent me." I think.
Okay, possibly. Which is anyone listening to this right now, who's probably anyone
Who has
but
sat through this just like 10
yeah.
minutes ago is like, "You fucking morons."
I was just gonna say that. Yeah, they probably know exactly who it was, and they're like, "Really? These two guys just said it, and they can't get it together." I'm barely listening to these assholes, and I remember. But yeah, but then how does the
Why do I
the
listen to these dumb pieces of shit? I'm gonna kill
oh, that's a jump. But one that I completely condone. If you can find me, let's see what you can do, I guess.
them. It's like what was it? There was a part Parks and Recreation where Nick Offerman's character, Ron Swanson, the character that everybody loves, the conservative gentleman with the mustache, Ted's
Yeah,
favorite character.
that's
At
how I
one
remember him. I saw his avatar.
and at one point, one of the characters asks about what his plans are for his inheritance, and Ron simply says, "Ah, yes, I have this in my wallet." And he pulls out his wallet and hands it to the guy. He says, "Whatever kills me will find this." And he looks at the guy talking to Ron, looks at the note, and it's just some scribbles. And he points back at Ron. He asks, "Ron, what does this mean?" And Ron just simply says, "What kills me will understand."
I guess it's just a throwaway, right? They never actually
Yeah,
explain. Okay,
yeah,
good. Yeah,
yeah.
that's how I prefer the joke to be. That's kind of how it feels, though. Yeah, it's like I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying very hard. I'm honestly trying very hard to try and remember what it was that led us from one thing to the next. I don't understand how we got, or even really how we could have gotten from like implants to the. All right. So okay, so you think the memory is that, or you think what happened, the order of things was that I brought up. You said that I brought up. Um,
Punk.
yeah, I brought up Punk, and then you brought up Stephanie. That's how it went. I brought up
Yes.
Punk, and then okay. So why do you feel was the Punk thing just a complete non sequitur? Something must have led me to thinking about it. I mean, assuming it was Punk, why would I have brought Punk up? What could we have said tonight that has anything to do with Punk? Where was that in relation to the Jim Cornette thing? But see, it all goes in
Yeah,
circles because the Jim Cornette thing. Yeah, go ahead.
we
Go
were
ahead.
talking about the ring match with Cornette. Yeah.
But why were we talking about the ring mats unless we were already talking about Deborah,
No, I
the
don't.
blood?
The ring mat was connected to Owen.
Why were we talking about Owen?
Why were we talking about? I feel mentally the image I am having to try and reassemble the images in my fucking brain of where I was in the process of building this shit in hell.
See, I remember. Unfortunately, I remember where I was, but I haven't done much moving. So for me, it's all pretty close together, regardless.
Did we get to Owen from Dawn of the Dead?
Did we? How so? We were talking about. Oh, okay. Wait a minute. Weren't we talking about the? Oh, I had it for a second. I think I had it for a second. Hang on. Let me think. Let me think.
Yeah.
Okay, we were talking about Owen. The oh god, we were talking about weren't we talking about the Stephanie and Shane thing because we were laughing about the idea of Owen, or I'm sorry, rather of Vince saying something to Stephanie about her tits. Didn't we get there from Dario Argento putting his daughter in naked movies? Isn't that how that came about? We were talking about Dario Argento and how it's weird that he put his daughter in his movies naked, and we were like, yeah, that's kind of a weird thing to do. And is that maybe what drew you to mention the Stephanie and Shane thing?
If it is, that makes more sense. My memory was that I brought up Stephanie and Shane because I was like, oh, speaking of wrestling interviews, but that makes more
But see,
sense.
that's what makes me think that I brought up CM Punk. I thought that you, and I could be completely wrong about this. I thought that you talking about Shane and Stephanie made me think of. No, it would have been you talking about Jim Cornette that made me think about the ring thing. God, yeah, I don't. I guess we got all the links though. I suppose, right? I guess
Well,
we
we
don't have the
definitely
order yet, but
recall
I think we've got
the
all the
aspects of
are all the
comic.
pieces there.
Yeah, we don't remember how they fit together. We're missing a connecting piece or two, I think.
Are we still? That's the part that's bugging me is whether or not we're missing something.
Well,
Like
I
the
was
order,
missing
I think is
Dario
going to keep us both messed
Argento
up. Okay, I was too until just now.
because your brother came up, or not your brother, your cousin came up because we were discussing the Resident Evil script.
Yeah, which funnily enough, I never even mentioned what that was all about. Basically, just to throw that in really quick, he had the script downloaded. He was desperately looking for it because he was a huge Romero fan and Resident Evil fan, and he downloaded it, printed it, and read it. And he lent it to me, and I only read a couple pieces of it before I wound up having to give it back to him. So that's all that was. But then, yeah, how we got from that, yeah, because I remember saying like, oh, how crazy,
And,
yeah, like putting your daughter in a movie naked, that's really weird. And I think you were the one who would have correctly voiced Vince, saying, hey, Stephanie, you and your boobs, etc., Deborah, this, that, and the other.
yeah.
But then if that's the case, now I'm screwed up as to when I would have brought up Jim Cornette, because I can see myself bringing up Jim Cornette both in relation to that, like, oh, hey, talking about interviews, how about the one with CM Punk? But then, was it Ariel Hawani?
Yeah,
How
Ariel
did
Helwani and Tony
Maybe it
Khan
was you
getting
telling me
pissed
about
at him.
him? Yeah. Do you think maybe that's what made? Yeah, I don't know. What?
It
What happened? Are you
hurts.
remembering, or did
My
something crazy? Yeah, it
brain.
does. Yeah, I agree. It's funny how difficult it can be to just try to remember how a conversation flowed. I find that kind of thing interesting. I find it fascinating to go back and look at, but wow, it's really almost more interesting to think of how difficult it is to put the pieces together in order. Didn't think a puzzle would be that difficult.
No.
Well, in the time we've been discussing this, I've been able to completely rope off my village, or fence off my village, so there's that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I just now finished putting the last pieces. I have to make a couple of gates, but yeah, I've got it fenced off now to where anything that happens to appear outside of its out of its walls or whatever. Which reminds me, I had an iron golem in here somewhere. I guess I haven't looked through the village for a while to see if he's still in there, but yeah, there was an iron golem. But yeah,
Ah.
anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I've been building a suspension bridge in hell while this was going on.
Oh, you've been doing that the whole time. Okay.
Yeah.
Ah, well, understandable. It seems like quite the project.
Yeah. Don't know why it just kind of struck into my head. Like, wouldn't it be cool to have some fence posts connecting this to like the ceiling, and it just kind of spiraled outward from there into a full design.
I think it's fair to assume that most things, or at least many things in Minecraft, show up as the result of, hey, wouldn't it be cool if?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And
nonetheless,
yeah.
yes, the Punk interview. Yes, the
Yeah, we might as well just keep talking about what we were talking about, since we spent so much time trying to figure out the order of it. Might as well continue.
Yeah, I only saw a few bits and pieces. I believe it was. I have it set in my watch later on YouTube, the full hour and 40-minute interview, but I've only seen a couple 2-minute clips of him like saying like connecting with Hunter again, and him saying like, "Well, we're both older now, so we started talking, and we were laughing and saying, oh, we used to be so fucking dumb when we were young, getting angry at each other over things that now just seem so silly."
That's kind of funny to hear him say, though, because it was only 10 years ago. It's not like it was like they were 15 and now they're 60.
Yeah, they look a lot older though, both of them.
They do. Yeah, that's true.
I did see he pointed out his gray beard, and he said, in case you needed any further signal that Vince is definitely off TV, look right here. Vince wouldn't let me have this.
Oh, really? Interesting. So he was fucking picky about the beards.
Which, yeah, I mean, it was the thing that the reason he made Elias shave was because he looked too much like Macho Man or some fucking nonsense like that.
I kind of thought that myself. Not that I thought that was the reason, but I myself saw a similarity there. But I would have never thought that would have been a reason to make the guy shave it.
I mean, as soon as I started up to 2K19 and I saw Elias looking like that, and that his signature move, not his finisher, but his sig, was a diving elbow drop. As soon as that,
Oh,
I started up universe mode and immediately started a feud between him and Macho Man, because it's like, well, clearly this works.
I didn't know that part. I didn't know that was his finisher or his sig, as you said.
Yeah, his finisher was a swinging neckbreaker, honky tonk style.
Oh, okay.
Well, no, he did
Eh,
it better than the honky tonk did, because he would like, it would be, well, it was still a swinging neckbreaker, but beforehand, like, he'd have him in a wrist lock, and with one hand he'd have him in a wrist lock, and then with the other hand he'd make a shush motion to the audience. He wouldn't say shush, he's not Chad Gable, but he made kind of a shush motion to the audience, and then he'd go for the swinging neckbreaker.
I see. That sounds cool enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was another one that they'd gotten rid of. I thought he was
They
another guy
have
where it's like,
gotten
oh,
rid
they
of him,
have. Okay.
yes.
Eh.
Now he does like Christian inspirational content on TikTok or something.
You know, a lot of wrestlers seem to go Christian.
Or fiercely atheist.
Who's gone atheist? I probably know
Cornette,
and just don't
Punk.
remember. Cornette's always been atheist, though, hasn't he?
Yeah, I guess in
I'm
terms of
talking
if
about
you're saying,
leaving the company and going like finding a religion.
that. Well, I guess back in the day, Jake, which of course everybody just laughed at because of course he was a raging alcoholic all the while.
Yeah, I've not yet heard any. Well, no, I shouldn't say not yet, but not recently heard anything about any particular religious, whatever things that he's attended or set up. It's probably bullshit.
It could have been real for a minute, but then the drink came back.
Probably.
His first god returned.
Yeah, Cornette said something that I always found funny, not to demean any born agains, but Cornette talking about born again Christians, he said, in his terms, he said, it's funny how when somebody finds God, that's usually after they find out that no one else will talk to you. They start talking to God because no one else will.
Right, because Cornette still won't forgive Sean.
Yeah, that he said it in reference to the Sean thing. Yeah.
Yeah, still fucking hates Sean.
Yeah, which is weird though because he says, and I've heard him say this a couple times, that he finds Sean to be the better of the performers between him and Vince.
But you mean
I'm sorry, between him and
Hunter?
Sean. Yes, no, between him and Sean. I did say Vince though incorrectly. Yeah, Cornette, strangely enough, surprisingly at least to me, thinks that Sean is the better overall performer. He says I way prefer Brett as a person, but yeah, I think Sean's a better wrestler.
Ooh, a better wrestler? Ooh, that's...
Well, again, performer, I think is how he probably specifically
better showman, yeah, but I mean, that was never what Brett was about.
Yeah, it's honestly hard to say. Sean was a very, very good athlete, but Brett was the better wrestler. So it's really kind of, I don't know. It's kind of a picky thing to determine who is quote better.
Yeah, Brett was more technically sound, and Brett was better at the psychology of having like the moves, putting a story to the match.
Yeah, Sure.
Sean certainly had his matches where he was just going out there and doing moves.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
That is funny to hear Cornette say that. Admit though, like Cornette loves his guys and will tend to tout them in just about every way he can. But in fairness, like I think that's pretty well. That's fair. What everyone says for Brett is like fantastic wrestler, never a guy on a stick.
No, Brett himself will admit that to his credit.
Yeah,
when he was giving out those wrestler scores and people make a meme out of how he says like whatever, like 4 out of 10. I think he gave himself like a 2 out of 10 for Mike, something like that. Which I think is a little.
Yeah, that's a little. That's too low. Brett couldn't carry Brett couldn't carry a gimmick, but he could at least bring passion to a promo where it seemed like he really cared about the next upcoming match.
Yeah, he exactly. Yeah, I don't really need to say anything else because I think you said it very well.
Yeah. I think, obviously, in terms of performers amongst the Hearts, obviously Owen was the personality out of those siblings.
Funnily enough, a lot of people think that Owen wasn't very good on the mic. I liked him. I thought he was funny. But
they're just memeing because of the fucking kicked your leg out of your leg bullshit.
Maybe. Because that is one of the funniest flubs ever, so maybe.
Oh, it's hilarious. But nonetheless, it's
why
just...
kick the leg out of your leg, look at the cameraman, kind of like, did I just say that?
Well, I remember OSW said when he does that, you can see it flash before Owen's eyes. Oh, that's the end of me as a star.
Yes, you can. Yeah, you could very much read it in his face. Like, that came out wrong. Yeah, I remember thinking that way back at the time.
Owen's one of those cases where the internet doing a meme to itself is like, yeah, kicked your leg out of your leg. Haha, Owen's such a shit promo because he said a bad thing, dumb thing one time.
Right. That is probably where most of it comes from, yeah.
Because most people are so fucking stupid that they form an opinion of you once and will refuse to change it for the rest of their lives.
Now you're thinking the right way about wrestling fans. Where have you been this whole time? You and the other guy.
Have I ever disagreed with that?
No, you're not as cynical as you should be, but it sounds like you're getting there.
Oh, I'm cynical of the fans. I'm very cynical of the fans.
Good. More people should be. Yeah, I think they're one of the worst things in wrestling today.
Oh, yeah.
Bunch of entitled.
I
I can't remember who said it first, but they're basically they're fans of themselves. It's like they go to the show just to put themselves over, and I think that's totally accurate. That is the attitude they have, and it's fucking gross.
Yeah, and we always say that like how annoying it is, how Pat is annoying out of his best friends. But I did see a tweet he made recently that I really liked. It was somebody else tweeted out the question, "What's something that's really good but you almost don't want? Like, what's something that's really great but has an awful fan base?" And
Oh God, yeah.
Pat just simply responded, "Everything."
That's actually pretty good. Yeah, that's actually really good. You can't really deny it either. Like, what's a fan base known for being like super mellow and chill and objective and patient, not overly judgmental? Is there one? Is
No,
there any
as like
fandom that's just like totally like, yeah, those guys are all super good people?
like as mass media, like obviously we can say small little communities, like hey, we're, back in the day, our little group for Duty video game fans were mostly fine, at least for those
Yeah.
of us that stuck around, really. But like, it was a smaller community. It wasn't just like there wasn't every WWE game fan on there, and a lot of
Also
them
true.
came and go, or just only posted every once in a while. So, it was,
Yes.
relatively speaking, it was a more of a tight knit community with definitive figures in the community rather than just a per se fan base. But like, you and I have both seen plenty of video game fans who are fucking dumbasses.
Yeah.
Christian's
Yeah, that
wrist
was
tape, where?
that's still my favorite. I've said it before. I was looking to find out what the new super cool like story mode is going to be because they have a Hell in a or I'm sorry, they have a Money in the Bank. Why would they have a Money in the Bank match in the game if there's not a story mode of some kind to go along with it? Because if you don't, then it's just a regular ladder match. And yep, I was all like, "Oh man, this new possibly, landmark milestone feature," and everyone's talking about the fucking like is whatever. It's like is the Pepsi plunge in? Is the guy gonna have his kick pads this year? I remember those two things specifically. Somebody's kick pads. Everyone was really big about the kick pads, and I was like, "That's you spend your whole year from game to game, and that's the thing you're waiting about the most is the fucking kick pads? Something you could just put on your fucking self? Seriously, really?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Pepsi.
I try not to knock people for having different priorities than myself, but it seemed like just objectively speaking, mine was a little bit more, I don't know, possibly, whatever, uh, long-term important, I guess.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Fucking love being worried about the Pepsi plunge. Yes, a move that CM Punk has never done in the WWE because, holy Jesus God, why would they allow him to do that move in the WWE?
It was either the Pepsi. Oh no, you know what? No, I'm wrong. It was the Pepsi plunge. I'm thinking along the same lines though. No, I think it was Punk's kick pads because I remember Punk was in there somehow. I think somebody was concerned about Punk's kick pads, but it was 2007. It was
Oh,
Kennedy and his Green Bay plunge that people were concerned about.
right.
Yeah,
Which, yeah, Punk wouldn't have been in 2007. He
right.
debuted in SVR 2008, which, oh boy,
That sounds right.
what a time to debut. But yeah, Kennedy with the Green Bay plunge, was he missing it in 2006?
I wouldn't think so. I don't even know if was he in 2006. My memory, and I could be wrong about this, is that he debuted in '07. Everyone, well, on that page or whatever, was simply concerned as to whether his particular move would be carried through. Although I don't know why it wouldn't have been if that was one of his signatures.
Yeah, I mean, granted, there've been instances where somebody got fucked, like Beth Phoenix having to be given the fisherman suplex for like 4 years straight because they just weren't putting in the fucking glam slam for some reason.
Oh yeah, I think Pick was talking about that.
What's it? Right, yeah. Mr. Kennedy at that time, that was before he pissed off Orton and Cena and Vince and all together, and he was out of the company. That was at a time where they
Yeah,
were still very, very high on Kennedy and thought he was going to be a star, so it'd be weird for him to be missing stuff.
I would have thought so. Yeah. I mean, again, I've said it before. I mean, I just said it now. It's like, well, everyone could have their own. Who might judge somebody else for their priorities? But it was easy to do because I thought the priorities were very, very minimal in the grand scheme of things. I thought that and I saw this too. often, whenever, and it was only a couple of years that they did it to my knowledge, but whenever they would advertise new features or whatever on the forums, like for that short time when they used the forums as an actual forum to, put out news and stuff for their games, I remember they said stuff like, "Oh yeah, here's a new thing that's coming for this year's game or whatever," and people would be like, "Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, tell us more. How, like, do you have this, that, and the other? Is this going to be in? Is that going to be in?" And I just remember thinking like, the people would ask such stupid stuff like the game. This has been in the game for like 3 years straight. Why wouldn't it be in? Shit like that. I saw that so often on the forums. I had to kind of keep my mouth shut because I was a member and I didn't want to insult other people. But yeah, when I was seeing it back in 2007, back in those days, I was able to just kind of quietly go back to my room or whatever, my home, and just say, "Oh man, fuck these fans, fuck wrestling fans. They're so stupid." Because we can be.
Oh, man. What was it I was going to say? Right, what was it? There was something with the Punk thing. Right, I mentioned the old Hunter thing and them being, saying all this and that. And,
Are they friends now or whatever?
yeah, how they're cool with each other and all that, and they thought it was funny, all the old bullshit. But there was something else I wanted to hit that was related to that.
Yeah, we were talking about. Well, you said that the context was, you said at that time there are only a few things that you had heard so far, snippets, because you hadn't yet watched the whole interview, and that was one of the things that stood out to you.
Yeah, I guess I'll just move on to something else that I recalled him saying, which was, oh, son of a bitch, now I've lost that. Oh, boy.
Well, it happens.
It does. Oh, I believe he did confirm that, yes, the original plan for WrestleMania 40 was him versus Rollins, but instead of Drew, but he got
Oh, he
hurt.
did. Okay.
So,
Interesting.
Yeah, Drew now has to take up his role. Which, boy, did that turn out to work out well for Drew.
Why so? I've only heard brief little snippets of Drew stuff lately.
Well, Drew's been kind of just treading water for several years now, and he's pretty mediocre on most days. Every now and then he gets a spark lit under his ass, but most of the time he's kind of mediocre.
Oh.
But he immediately made a gimmick out of, "I'm so happy Punk got hurt." And he's wound up getting over very well with it.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So,
to my understanding, that's how he actually feels as well. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's. Yeah, go ahead. What?
No, that's kayfabe. They had him and Punk.
You think so?
Yes. It was.
Well, you follow it, so.
Yeah, they had him and Punk cutting promos on each other on an episode of Raw or SmackDown. I forget what. Yeah, Raw. Like, they're building up that when Punk comes back, he'll be getting into a feud with Drew because of all the shit that Drew said about him. So, no, Drew's having a lot of fun on social media with it and posting memes about, Punk getting hurt and this, that, and another. And Drew has got some good promo lines of the one particular that I liked, he only said a couple weeks ago directly to Punk in a promo was, "For a guy who's straight edge, you seem to spend all your time in rehab."
Oh yeah, because of the arm. That's right.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. It sounds like he's had a few good lines, actually. I can't remember what the last one was, but I remember he said something not too long ago in regards to Punk, and I was like, that was good. That was pretty good.
Ooh. Oh, I'm struggling to remember.
I wish I remember what it was. Yeah, you'll probably remember it.
The initial thing that got over really strong was, the actor, Grant Gustin, yeah, Once Upon a Time. I don't understand the context of why he would have done this or when it would have been acceptable and not just resulted in a bunch of people beating the piss out of him. But there was some, instance of, a funeral gathering where the actor Grant Gustin then leans over the tombstone and, as the guy's in the process of being buried, and makes, the peace sign over it with a big old smile on his face. And when I say peace sign, not hey, it was almost like a peace sign, hey, fuck this guy that's getting buried. And I don't know what the context of that is. I'll have to look that up someday, but Drew got very, very, it became a meme for quite a while on the internet, and Drew got very popular because he took that picture and he edited the tombstone to say CM Punk's WrestleMania plans, and then replaced
Oh,
Grant Gustin's face with Drew's own.
okay. Well, who is Grant Gustin?
Grant Gustin played the Flash in the Flash TV show that was very popular. Let me look. Go
Recently
ahead.
then?
Yeah. Let me go ahead and look up the context for it, because I'm actually now very curious now that I say it out loud.
I knew a kid in school named John Gustin, never Grant Gustin.
It's a pretty rare name.
Gustin, yeah, I'm trying to think of any other Gustins I might
Ah!
have heard of.
They were filming an episode where it's a funeral, okay, and it's another character. It's another major character's death that I won't spoil, but he's being buried. And
Okay,
as a joke while they're filming it, Grant Gustin then leans over like, fuck this guy.
I see.
And it wound up being turned into a meme because it's very funny to see a guy at a funeral wearing a black raincoat, assuming he showed up to the funeral in what is normal circumstances where he's there to mourn. But instead, the guy leans over the grave like, look at this dead
Yeah,
prick.
I see.
So there you go. That's the context for why how Drew got really hot.
All right.
But yeah, what was it? Yeah, so Punk confirmed that was the original plan. Son of a bitch, he had more to say about AEW. I mean, obviously, from my recollection, he still went a little bit along, this Jungle Boy kid's a fucking twerp.
Yeah, basically, yeah. What I heard is that he went backstage, I guess like Tony Schiavone came to him, and Punk right there said that should say something right there is that Tony Schiavone came to me and not Tony Khan. Said he came to me talking about Jungle Boy, saying Jungle Boy's doing this, that, and the other, and I'm like, well, okay, well, I guess I'll go talk to him. And he said that he went back and talked to Jungle Boy, saying, what's the story? And I guess Jungle Boy was like, yeah, I want to go through glass, or I want to punch through glass, or whatever. And Punk was like, well, this is a rental car. You can't do that. And I guess like Jungle Boy was like, yeah, well, fuck you, or whatever, and was swearing out him and threatening him or whatever. And Punk was like, okay, well, that's bullshit, and you're kind of being an asshole. And I guess that's when Jungle Boy said, got up on him and said, what are you going to do about it? That kind of thing. And I guess that's when, apparently, I guess, according to Punk, that's when Punk choked him a little bit. And then went to Tony and was like, yeah, this is bullshit. You need to settle these things and you don't. So,
What?
I don't.
You're a clown, I quit.
Yeah, you're a clown. That's right. You're right. You're right. You're totally right. I forgot about that detail. You're a clown. I quit. A clown. That is a pretty funny thing to call your boss. He's a clown.
It kinda is, though.
Yeah, what I've been able to tell, yeah. The things I hear the most are like the things that Cornette says about him, which basically just he's not a wrestling he's not a wrestling promoter so much as he's just like a wrestling fan who likes to play action figures with his dad's money.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like,
that's
yeah,
everything
sure, that seems to match.
Yeah, I wouldn't take Cornette's opinion for being the only one, but that's what I've heard from everybody else, too, so...
Right. Right. Yeah, I know when I saw the famous video, and it took a while for me to get around to it. I didn't realize that it was out there, so I went and looked at it and was like, "Oh, this is interesting." Of Punk having the first of many, because Punk tends to have problems with people left and right. Yeah, he had the issue with I guess it was the Young Bucks, where he was doing the press conference and eating a bunch of muffins, and just going on and on about how the people he works with are a bunch of fucking children and he can't stand them when he's trying to help run a business. Yeah, and Tony Khan's just like sitting there, just quietly right next to him, like, oh boy, he's swearing a lot, like the boss is just like taking a back seat. Yeah, he was sitting there kind of like, oh man, wow, yeah, this is bad. But yeah, nothing apparently really came of it. And he just apparently didn't tell Punk no, or that was bad or anything. He just went back to business, I suppose.
Yeah, he goes on to say, "Oh, this is great. It's all great. We're having a great time. AEW's great. Have I mentioned how much my employees admire me? Have you seen this?"
Did he actually say that?
So I guess as a form of damage control with Punk's interview, Tony is now having like all of the wrestlers, for one thing, the day immediately after go on Twitter and talk about how great AEW is and how much they love to work there.
Oh God.
But he also then on Wednesday, he had during the show had Edge go out there and cut a promo about how great AEW is and how necessary it is to the wrestling business. And then after the fucking show went off the air, he sent FTR, the Revival, whichever you want to call him out there, to also cut a promo about how great AEW is and don't let anybody crush your dreams.
Oh jeez.
Don't let
Okay.
anybody steal your joy. And I thought, like, okay, something in particular is up there because Punk is famously friends with FTR.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Like, that was a lot of the
Well,
wonders when Punk was getting in a lot of trouble was, is he going to get FTR in trouble? Is he going to get Danhausen in trouble? Because he was famously friends with both of them.
he mentioned something in the interview he just did. He said something about how he's not going to name names, but he wanted to mention somebody, but he couldn't. He said because that person's still with AEW and he didn't want to get them in trouble. So I wonder if that's who.
I want to say there was some interview he did recently. It might have been the Ariel Helwani interview where at some point Punk pretty well said, like, well, I had a lot of problems there, but, it's not all bad. Like, I got to meet Brody King and Danhausen. And people were laughing and, like, saying, like, Punk, like, making memes of Punk saying, like, well, this was shit, and that was shit, and this was shit, and that was shit. But hey, Danhausen.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know I said this before, and I don't even like necessarily dislike Punk. I mean, I think he's an asshole. I've said that before. I've been very clear about that. But I mean, I find it interesting that there have been so few other people that drama just follows them everywhere they go as Punk. I mean,
Yeah.
like when you think about his last 10 years, it's like, okay, he quit because of drama. Then he went to AEW, where within like half a year there was drama. Then he came back, and there was drama again. Then he left, and now in WWE, now he's talking about the drama, and there's probably gonna be more drama in a little bit soon. Because it seems like it follows him around. It's like always there. I mean, this is the first time he's really talked about the AEW stuff, so it's like, it's not like this is still, I guess, technically an ongoing thing, but it's like there's always like a little bit of time, then there's more drama coming from and or surrounding CM Punk, and this time it's just coming from him just describing past drama. But it's like my point is, it's still. It gets reignited. Like there's always something. I guess bottom line is there's always some kind of drama surrounding CM Punk.
Yeah, I think with Dirty, probably part of the hope just simply is, well, if he's a part-timer, he's not in the backstage always, then hopefully he just won't have the time whenever he's here to make enemies.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I don't know why anyone thought to give him the backstage role in the first place. That seems, and again, I don't even necessarily dislike the guy, but it's like, what qualifications did he even have to begin with to be backstage? To be a backstage officer or whatever. Like, why would have somebody given him that role?
Like, well,
I guess
didn't
maybe that
Tony
was
give
part
it
of
to him
his.
pretty well? Try to make a peace offering.
Is that what it was? Because I guess that would make the most sense. Like, hey, if you
I
want to come over here, be a whatever, to stop the problems, have a backstage role, maybe you'll like that and give you something to do.
that's what I heard. Yeah.
That might be the case.
Oh, and of course, well, Punk again. What was it? There was something that was mentioned about Jungle Boy being a scapegoat. I think it was Punk that mentioned it at some point, something or other. No, Punk wouldn't have mentioned it. Either way, yeah, they also, the Bucks, of course, came out on Wednesday, and they had a bit where as they were walking down the ramp, one of them leans into the camera and says, "Hey, scapegoat, we love your work, big stupid wink." You
Pathetic.
cunts.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
which does.
fundamentally what they are, and I think they know it. They lean into it. But still, they
Yeah,
are.
they seem like the type. Yeah, yeah. What little I know of them is of that nature.
They named their fucking biography, their autobiography, "Killing the Business."
Which means, of course, they're either proud of it or they're accepting that that's their moniker and they're going to fight it. Either way, acknowledging that it's a thing to do with them.
Yeah.
Why would they already have an autobiography out?
That's what I thought!
Like, who the hell are they to write an autobiography? I mean, I was surprised when China wrote hers, and that was after like 3 years in the business. But at least she was like a noteworthy person because of what she'd accomplished at that time. Which I guess some would say about them. I guess I wouldn't. I've just heard that yeah, they're kind of just some assholes that wrestle. And
Like,
question mark.
well, the thing they're going to always be able to fucking rest on the laurels of is, hey, we were one of the founders of AEW, but it's like,
Oh, they were. Yeah.
always going to also go down in history as like, yeah, but you founded it with Kenny Omega and Cody Rhodes, both of whom are undeniably going to go down in history as bigger stars than either of you two.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, at least I would think so.
Like, the best possible memory they're going to have in history, other than founding AEW, is being Kenny's side piece.
Yeah. I guess I
And
just don't know. I don't.
Uncle Dave giving them 25-star ratings.
Yeah, that's I can't remember which one of you guys first told me, but whoever it was that said, "Oh yeah, by the way, that he never." I mean, maybe it was Brian Last. I can't remember. Somebody mentioned that they had never that he had never give anything other than like whatever, like the early 2000s WWE a 5-star rating. Like he'd never given him another 5 star since then. And like that was surprising. But then to hear that he's given like 10 or 15 or something like that, might even be a low number to AEW since then. A company that's only been around for like 5 years. It's like, come the fuck on, man. Like, I mean, you don't even. I don't even have to watch either company, which I don't. So I guess in that way unbiased to know how bullshit that is. I mean, 15, 20 years of one company, they don't get a 5 star, but then this other company over the course of half that time gets a bunch. Nah, think so.
Like, hang on, let me. If you'll give me a moment to pull up
Yeah,
the
take your time.
list, because Wikipedia actually does keep a five or higher star rating list for Dave.
Oh, interesting. That'd be
Yeah,
handy to know.
and let me look it up, because let's see. Yeah, Dave Meltzer 5-star ratings. I'm having to look this up around the cat.
For a second, I thought you meant like in the cat's presence, and I was like, well, why would that matter? But then I realized you meant no, physically around the cat.
Okay, let's see. So, yes, let's see. For the WWE or WWF's 5-star ratings. Let's see, okay. So, the first one would be. Hang on. Gotta scroll through a lot of Japan here.
Oh God, yeah, hadn't even thought of that.
The first ever 5-star rating, 5 or higher star rating for a WWE match was in March 20, 1994. Razor Ramon versus HBK at WrestleMania X.
That was the first 5-star match he ever gave
for WWE.
WWE. Not even Steamboat Savage. Wow.
Not even Steamboat. Remember, Dave hated Golden Age WWE. You remember for like
I
10
didn't
years.
remember. No.
No, for 10 years straight, he gave Gorilla Monsoon the worst commentator award every single fucking year.
Jeez.
How can you hate Gorilla Monsoon?
Yeah, I mean, I can understand having some personal issues with some of like his commentary patterns or whatever, but like worst commentator based on what? I mean, it's not like he was dumb. It's not like he just like threw out a bunch of like intentionally bad jokes like Lawler did. Like, what did he do that was so egregious?
Okay.
Didn't like caring about the upper occipital protuberance, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. Let's see. He gave 5 stars then, and again 94 to Brett versus Owen at SummerSlam 94.
Yeah, deserved.
But apparently not to Brett Bulldog at SummerSlam.
I would have to see that again to see if I would disagree with it. I don't remember that match very well. I remember it being really good.
Hang on. Where was it? Oh, that's weird. Hang on, hang on. Let me look something up. Something might be off about this list. Oh, really? Did I get that wrong when I said that the other day?
The WWE record thing, the how many whatever the background of how many stars he's given or how many
I
five
thought
stars.
he gave 5 stars to Sean versus HBK versus Kev at WrestleMania 11. No, he only gave that 4.5.
That's still on the high side, but I'm glad it wasn't five. Because when I think like that, when I think of 5 stars, and again, as much has been made of this, and I think fairly so, that Wade has gone above 5 stars, which I mean that it really kind of speaks for itself that negates the entire system. But taking that aside, under the ideal, under the conceit that 5 stars means the best possible, I certainly do not think of Diesel versus Sean.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, in the 90s, he gave 4 5-star ratings to WWE, and only in 2 years. Two of them were in 94, WrestleMania X and SummerSlam 94, and two of them were in 97. He gave Brett versus Austin 5 stars at WrestleMania 13, the match, of course, where Austin bleeds out and passes out.
Which, to be fair, everyone has claimed that that's like legitimately one of the greatest matches in the history of wrestling. So, whatever.
It's very significant to wrestling history. That's
You
effectively
see the significance, yeah,
yeah,
it's
but
super
Dave
significant.
doesn't
I'm
rate on
wondering if that's why.
significance.
Oh, that's what makes me wonder, though, because a lot of people, like pretty much any wrestling organization or any, anyone who monitors this stuff says the same thing. That it's like that is one of the best matches ever. But I do wonder if it's just because it's important. Started the dumbest era in wrestling. Yay, 5 stars. I don't know.
It's a great finish. That much can be said.
It is.
And let's see. And the other one in 97 they gave 5 stars to was HBK versus Taker in the Hell in a Cell, which of course was the debut. Yeah, that's gotta be Kane!
Oh, Pain, that one. Yeah, the first Bad Blood, if I recall correctly.
Okay, so October 5th, 1997. And then the next 5-star rating you would give to WWE would be fucking 14 years later. 2011 CM Punk versus John Cena, Money in the Bank 2011.
Which I heard was really good. So I guess I could understand that being like a high rating match, but like 5 stars. I mean, again, really? The best that wrestling has to offer, the best that you could possibly expect of this business was a match between those two.
And a
I don't know
14-year
about that.
gap with no 5-star ratings.
Right, yeah. So that means that that's the best match since I guess the previous one you said was the Bret Austin.
No, the debut of Kane.
The Austin one would have been. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, the Austin one would have been like a year or two before that. Okay, yeah.
And then there was a 7-year gap again where WWE didn't get any 5-star ratings. And the next one after Punk versus Cena to get 5-star ratings. The next one in 2018 to get 5-star rating. Andrade versus Johnny Gargano on NXT.
Which again, I've heard those guys are good, or at least Gargano, but I cannot speak for it. Not a name that I've really heard passed around a lot. Is like these guys are the best. That match is the best. That kind of thing.
Now, I will say, in fairness to old Uncle Dave, is that from that point forward, he starts to be more generous with the 5-star ratings for everyone. AEW collects the lion's share of them, about 80%, but when you're handing out a fucking 100, WWE gets to catch a few.
I suppose so.
And from that point forward, yeah, 2018 alone gets, let's see, hang on. Yeah, 2018 alone has 4 5-star matches from Dave for WWE.
How many?
4.
Okay. So
And
there was just a whole giant time there where apparently just WWE just wasn't putting on very good matches.
according to Dave,
Yeah.
Kurt Angle versus Rey Mysterio, dog shit. Who cares?
Right.
Fucking like, and you know what I think of Benoit. You know that I don't like Benoit. That I won't watch his matches because of what he did. But still, nonetheless, yeah, Benoit versus fucking really anybody, dog shit. Get out of here.
Apparently so.
Like, I mean, obviously you can just keep going for stuff that happened in the 2000s. Like, I'm generally of the opinion that the Ruthless Aggression era was kind of a rough period for wrestling. But to try and act like no fantastic matches happened then is ridiculous.
Yes. Yeah, I think that Angle alone, I'm sure would have been God.
Eddie!
Yes. Yeah, Angle, Eddie, Lesnar. Not necessarily a 5-star, but I mean, I would. I'd have to see it again to be fair, but like even just Eddie versus Brock at WrestleMania 20, I remember that being a fantastic match. Jericho versus Michaels, WrestleMania 19, probably my favorite match of either of those guys. There's again, like when you think of stuff like Cena, like I don't think of Cena as being a very good wrestler, but I mean like really, like his best opponent was CM Punk. It
Oh,
just there's so many names. Yeah, go ahead.
Baby Orton.
Baby Orton.
I mean, he was a baby back then. He's running around now. He's an old fella, but he was a wee baby back then.
Yeah, I mean, relatively speaking, he debuted in 2002, I believe. I remember where I was at the time. I remember. It's funny looking back that I remember my buddy was saying, "Yeah, you know Bob Orton? Oh yeah, old Cowboy Bob." He's like, "Yeah, his son's gonna wrestle. His son's coming to WWE next week." It's like, "What? He has a son? Yeah, he's supposed to be pretty good."
Well, you
And
remember
now
Shut Your
here,
Mouth? He's in there, and it's just
was
like
he?
here's, yeah, yeah. You remember he's in Shut Your Mouth, and his finish is the fucking schoolboy pin.
Oh, really? Was it? He didn't have the
Yeah,
RKO even then.
they didn't even give
Wow.
him the diving crossbody or the fucking oh goddamn the stupid move that looks like shit. The move where
I don't know. I don't know
MVP
moves like you do.
used it years later as the playmaker. It's the one where you put your head on top of your leg on top of the guy's head and then just flip him over.
Oh, that was a stupid fucking move. Yeah, I don't remember what the name of it was, but yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
That
and
always did
Orton
stand out
used
to me
it in
as
his
ridiculous.
baby days, and he called it the ozone.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I don't. It's funny looking back to know that apparently that was his his debut in the game because Shut Your Mouth would have been God like that he would have had to have been fresh new,
Oh
like
yeah,
brand new off the Performance Center because again he debuted in late 2002. That game was late 2002.
like you look at that game, and it's like, well, I believe Randy was only put in the game because they originally planned to put in somebody like Sean O'Hare or Nathan Jones, one of those kinds of goons.
Oh.
And for some reason, they weren't able to work that out, so they're like, I don't know, just put in this fucking Orton kid, I guess. And like you look at him in the game, and it's like, yeah, he's got one shoulder tattoo, but he otherwise is like completely
Yep.
clean
Bare
skin.
nude. Yeah.
He's got blue trunks that don't have the little like tribal tattoo gimmicks on them.
Oh, right. Wow, he seemed super generic in that game. Yeah.
Yeah,
Very fresh faced too. He had like the full hair and everything.
yeah, he had the little spiky hair that was coming down in the bangs over his
Yep.
forehead.
Yeah, like a little bit of bang curls. That's right.
Yeah, he's just going out there and his wrist tape and like, you shut your mouth. Yeah, that was.
Weird transitional roster. A really good roster, but yeah, very transitional from what you're saying.
Yeah, it depends. It depends on what you're looking for, I suppose. I remember I myself when I did give season mode a try, I kind of was like, well, I don't want to jump straight to the very top with like Booker or Hunter or Lesnar or Angle, but the mid card in that game's kind of bad. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll take
Yeah.
Regal.
Yeah. The mid card was pretty rough. That's when
Because
you had
like,
Rico, for example.
yeah, Rico and Baby Orton, who at that time wasn't shit, and like, I guess around that time RVD would have been considered a mid carder, but I don't think of RVD as a mid carder.
Yeah, I never thought him as one.
Ooh, that would have been fresh after they had just got like the glut of the really shitty guys out of WCW and ECW. So it's like, here's the Dudleys. Oh fuck.
Oh, right. Not only just the Dudleys, but Spike among them.
Spike, yeah.
Spike,
What?
Rhino.
Oh yeah, Rhino. Fucking. And they couldn't really get their hands on Sandman or Sabu, who at the very least like Sandman and Sabu have at least somewhat unique looks.
Yeah, more so than Time Dreamer, who is just, guy.
Yeah.
Person number 684.
Tommy Dreamer, who is your friend growing up's lame dorky dad.
Yeah, he looked that way. Yeah, he looked like a dorky dad. And obviously, being that he completely defended Ric Flair hard in that Dark Side of the Ring thing, we now also know that he's a piece of shit.
Oh yeah. Well,
I mean,
yeah.
as you
Well,
said,
he's
Cornette was
he's
a
a
little soft on him
star.
as well, but yeah, so it's okay. Like, I think he even mocked the woman. Like, oh yeah, he really, I'm sure that hurt a lot. Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, sexual abuse. It's perfectly fine.
And
Shows what kind of character you are.
Tommy, you remember Tommy? I forget where was it. I need to look it up someday. I need to look up the actual clip of him saying it. But you remember he said at one point that he planned that there was going to be a WrestleMania that Paul was going to be at. He planned to hop the railing and shoot Paul and himself on pay-per-view.
I like to death.
Yes, he explicitly stated that Paul had gotten away with stealing money from him and Chris Candido and a couple
Oh,
others. So he said, I was going to take a gun, I was going to go to WrestleMania, I was going to hop the barrier, I was going to shoot Paul, and I was going to shoot myself.
that's something stupid people say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't say that I remember him saying that. I believe you, but I don't remember it.
Like, I was laughing about it. Good couple of people were laughing about it because old Bill Apter was saying, I don't think Roman Reigns should be the one to induct Paul Heyman into the Hall of Fame. I think that Paul Heyman's ECW legacy is more significant than his managerial legacy, so I think Tommy Dreamer should induct him. And other people were joking,
Ah,
like, well, fuck, does Bill Apter want Tommy to go up there and do the deed like he said he would?
that's something to consider. Yeah.
That'd be quite the fucking Hall of Fame. I hereby induct Paul for stealing my money. Bang! Goodbye, cruel
You
world.
know,
Bang!
it'd be, it'd be a noteworthy speech.
Fuck it. Honestly, still would take it over Flair's speech for Muda last year. So let me list off. In Japan, Giant Baba, he was a tough guy. I fought him. Jumbo Tsuruta, he was a tough guy. I fought him. Genichiro Tenryu, remember him? Yeah, he was pretty tough. I fought him.
Why was he doing this? Was it just because he started talking about how Muda was Japanese? Like, oh yeah, he's one of the great Japanese wrestlers, and here's some other ones. Then just started listing them all.
Yes, he mentions Muda once at the very beginning. Kat, what are you doing? He mentions Muda once at the very beginning and says, yeah, Muda, he's one of the great legends of Japan. I fought a lot of guys in Japan. I fought Muda, I fought Tenryu, and you gotta
That sounds
mention
very Flair-like.
you gotta mention Masawa, and then there's Kabashi, and hey, there's Asuka right there. She's keeping the female gender alive, which I've always nobody ever talked about that. Flair points out Asuka in the audience and says she's keeping the female gender
Female
alive.
gender.
What does that mean?
That's a good question.
And he just keeps going for like 10 fucking minutes until somebody, I forget who, finally goes up and gives Flair the signal of like, fucking get it over with. So Flair's
Yeah.
like, okay, so yeah, when Muda came into WCW, they came to me and they said, well, Rick, Muda's coming over to America for the first time. We want you to show him around because we know you know how to show him around. So I took him around to all the strip clubs. And I showed him all the good strip clubs. And he gets fucking time signaled again of like, fucking wrap it up. So then Flair says, oh, yeah, and I will always trust and love Muda forever. I left my son in his care. And then Flair gets off the stage without explaining.
Oh, yeah, you told me about that part. Yeah.
And it was like, Jesus, was it David or Reed? Because those are very different outcomes there.
That's right. I remember you making that point.
Like, either Muda was left in the care of a very crappy wrestler that's kind of just left out of history, or Reed, who was supposed to be very talented and then committed suicide.
Suicide, yeah. I don't even know.
And fucking Charlotte had to be there, sitting there in the crowd, watching her dad embarrass himself, and then also drop some fucking major family information there at the end as well.
It makes me wonder if she's used to that. You'd think that at this point in her life, she'd have to be. She has to know what her dad's like.
Yeah, there was actually an interview I saw with Charlotte where they asked about Rick doing this and that and embarrassing himself in public by some means. I don't know if it was the 8 millionth divorce or the fucking 8 millionth DUI or the 8 millionth stupid business he's opened up. But yeah, Charlotte pretty well just says, hell, I had to learn. He's my dad. I love him, but he's his own man, and I can't stop him. I can't tell him what to do.
I can't stop him. If she said it like that, then that clearly implies that there was an attempt made. Dad, stop! I can't be stopped. Woo!
It's time for wooing. Look at this energy drink, Charlotte. It'll cure cancer.
Yeah, just the Wii energy thing. I remember one of the, obviously there's the copy that I told you about where it says all the various things that it can do, and it's like, oh yeah, it's like this essentially this power drink that'll cure every ailment in so many words. And I remember like that was already funny, but then there's another thing I heard where Rick was like doing a brief promo for it. I don't know where, maybe like the end of a commercial spot or something, and Rick is just he just sounds just straight up drunk. I mean, he often does, but he was just like, "Oh, wait, the war, she is a WWE champion, #1. It is great for you. It's, woo!" Just like this slur of syllables that you can barely make out what he's trying to say, like
Yeah.
more than usual, even for Flair. Yeah,
Yeah, that shit
yeah,
that got JR fired.
yeah,
I gotta say, that one
yeah.
always got me like, I don't love JR. I'm fine with JR, but I don't love JR. But nonetheless, I was like, when that happened, I was like, is that really JR's fault? Is he the one that should be in trouble for this?
Yeah.
Like, is it
Yeah,
really
you're
this,
talking
or
about
is
the
it
thing
just the Vince?
after the you're talking about the thing after the 2K14 release, right? The press
Yeah.
conference where yeah, yeah.
Like, was it really that, or was it just that, like, Vince finally got sick of having that, I got this fat southern fuck. I
Just
need an
looking for any
excuse to get
excuse.
rid of him.
I think it probably was. Yeah, I would believe so. I think
Si-
at the time maybe even JR said the same, but J I don't know. I've said this a million
Well,
times. I
in
stand
fairness,
by
for
it.
like the Southern hatred, it could be just as. I mean, Vince obviously has a lot of issues with the South, probably because he had a bad upbringing there. But there's also Kevin Dunn, also famously despises Southerners.
Yeah,
So maybe
yeah.
if old
Oh, go ahead. Maybe.
Bucky Beaver motherfucker going, Vince, I think it's time. It's time we've modernized the product. We got these Southerners. They're just gonna make people think that it's some hillbilly stuff. We're gonna have to. I think it's time Jr. Gotta move on. Let's blame him for that Flair thing with the video game bullshit.
I could see all that happening. And once again, your
God
impression
damn it,
of
pal, you're
Cornette
right. Now bend over.
is. I was going to say before that atrocity that your impression of Cornette is very good to the point that you can even imitate Kevin Dunn. You can imitate Cornette doing Kevin Dunn, and
So,
it still sounds totally accurate.
so I have seen one or two clips of Kevin Dunn in my life. I've not seen that many because he's a very private guy. He doesn't get on footage very often. But I've seen a couple clips of him, and in those clips, Jim Cornette does a perfect impression of what he sounds like. He actually sounds like
He
that.
does. Yes, he actually really does.
Like,
Yeah,
it's
that and
astounding because it's like,
well,
when you hear Cornette doing that impression, you're like, okay, so clearly this is just, like, incredibly offensive because he hates him.
yeah,
No,
you're
it's
right.
actually really accurate.
Yep, he really actually did sound like that. Apparently, he's different now, I guess, because he got the teeth fixed. But
Oh my god.
yeah, and
Really?
go ahead.
Because Cornette said in
Yes.
the interview, like, fuck all the money that Vince pays you, why not get the fucking teeth fixed?
I was just gonna make that point. Yeah, I was gonna say that Cornette himself even said like I try not to tear somebody apart just because of the way they look. But he said, but my God, like the guy said that he was super sensitive about his teeth. Don't make fun of him. And he's like, well, motherfucker, you make enough money, get them fixed.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
apparently,
that's...
yeah, Cornette. I think it was on Cornette that he said that. Yeah, I can't mock him for that anymore because he got him fixed finally.
Yeah, but now thinking about the Stephanie thing, now that makes me question if it was Dunn that got him fixed or if it was Vince. Well, goddamn it, pal, you can't be coming up here. You're working in my
Oh
company
God.
with his fucking teeth.
Oh, I thought it was gonna be more of a sexual thing. Like
Goddamn it, pal, I
you
can't be having those
him.
get in the way here. I need a full passageway.
Yes, I was thinking that it was gonna be somewhere or another in that direction. Yeah. Either
By the
that
way,
or like this girl that I'm whoring out. Yeah, you're gonna have to, go ahead. By the way.
Kev, have you thought about getting implants?
No. Well, think about it.
The way you delivered that sounded like a genuinely very worried no.
I would have been. Like, should I seriously have been?
Like he's frightened.
Well, wouldn't you be?
I would be too, yes, but not,
Yeah.
like
Given those circumstances.
this is going above and beyond. Like, we've turned Vince into such a cretin that he's not satisfied sexually as harassing and assaulting the female employees. He's moving on to the male employees in the corporate office.
I mean, from what I can tell, this
Michael
is the
Hayes
case.
is on the run.
I mean, from the sounds of it, he might have been the only one to avoid it. I mean, because apparently he was horn out, I guess, Laurinaitis. Well, at least according to Laurinaitis, he was a victim. But
Well,
yeah, I don't
Laurinaitis
know.
has a fucking history of being whored out in that regard. Jesus.
Yes, yeah, it is kind of odd. This would be the one time that he'd complain about having to service a backstage girl. Kind of odd that now it's a problem.
Well, what I wasn't even referencing that. I was referencing the stuff
Oh,
with Mrs. Baba.
oh, God, it seems like we just talked about that recently, but it's a detail that slipped my mind.
Yeah, it's not confirmed. It's never been confirmed. I doubt any of them would confirm it. John Laurinaitis have no reason to confirm it, and neither does Mrs. Baba. But well, possibly while Giant Baba was still alive, it was very, very common rumor that, well, it's definitely known that Mrs. Baba liked herself some blonde white boys.
Ah,
Now, whether she liked them sexually is a little bit more in dispute. But
right.
she definitely liked them and pushed her husband to employ a lot of them.
Oh,
But it's been a
yuck.
very common rumor for a long time that she was also, well, as Cornette said when they were talking about Laurinaitis' involvement in the Baba stuff, what Cornette said was, "Oh, pool boy."
Yeah. I can picture that too. Yeah, I can totally picture that.
And like that kind of works out as like, oh, well, that explains why Laurinaitis is so fucked up. 'Cause,
Yeah, you know, it's
and
it's really hard to say
that
in the
wasn't
U.S.
like the fantasy you can have like, oh man, what if some rich chick was like, oh, like no, Miss Baba was not a looker.
I wouldn't think so. Baba himself was pretty freakish looking. Yeah,
To quote Dave Meltzer himself, he looks like leather stretched over a skeleton.
he does. Yeah, does. Yeah.
I love a lot of Bob. I love Bob. I mean, he never put on really any good match. He put on a solid match with Bruno I saw back in the day. But like Baba was never a great worker. But like, there's something comfy about Baba. He's a dopey, lovable guy. But Baba was 100% leather stretched over a skeleton.
Yeah. Yeah, not the prettiest features, which again, for Dave of all people to be saying that, man,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
rough.
yeah. Dave, who adored Baba's booking and fucking loved Baba's promotion, like.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, he even liked the guy.
I remember there was somebody made a drawing of Baba getting angry about that and fucking chopping Dave Meltzer so hard he sends him flying. Which is great to imagine, not only because Baba seemed like a perfectly nice guy, but as Mick Foley once put it in his book, Giant Baba, the Japanese fans loved him in spite of the fact that his moves looked like they couldn't break an egg.
Yeah. Although you'd be more the expert on that than I would be. You're I've said before that you're very for somebody who didn't grow up with wrestling, you're very learned in the craft.
Yeah, I like to do a lot of the research, and I like to not have big blind spots. I've not. I'll say there's some stuff that I find harder to adjust to than others. Territory day stuff can be depends on the territory, because like I've said before, like I've enjoyed a couple of old Slaughter matches, but like comparatively, I've seen some old like AWA, and like it's the sort of thing of like, okay, Nick Bockwinkel, class act, fantastic wrestler in virtually every regard. But boy, that old Vern Gagne and Nick Bockwinkel stuff, they like to work it fucking slow.
Yeah. That was a big thing back then. I mean, obviously the contrast now is that everything's super fast, but yeah, there was a
Well,
long time back there. Even in my time, that a lot of matches were just they go to those. This match is scheduled for one fall with a 15-minute time limit. It would go that fucking 15 minutes.
yeah, the time limit was their way of trying to protect both workers, and eventually fans just started getting so pissed about time limit and DQ and count out finishes that they gradually declined decade by decade until you get to present day where they're I don't know the last DQ or count out or timeout finish I've seen.
Timeout. It would have been very like story related, obviously. Like oh, we have to do this because these guys are both so tough and they're gonna fight to the end and blah blah blah. And who's gonna win? Oh no, the time ran out. Now you're gonna have to tune in next week. As opposed to simply this is an exhibition. These people aren't like really super high up in the story right now. But oh look, they just happen to have a time limit draw. And it doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah,
That
like
I'm aware of. Again, I don't watch, so I can't say.
like it's funny actually. I think I mentioned before that I watched a bit of WrestleMania 4, about the front half of WrestleMania 4 only a week ago.
Pretty bad one.
It's not the worst though,
No, no, it's not.
because like near the opening we have from the pretty close to the jump we have Greg Valentine versus Ricky Steamboat. Valentine I'm not fond of, but Ricky Steamboat, hey, he's fucking great, and he was able to pull it out. He was able to make a good match in spite of Valentine, right?
Yeah.
And then we got a couple clusterfuck matches, like here's Bam Bam versus One Man Gang, and
Which I think that one went to a bye or a time. I think was that one a time limit?
count out, count out, count out.
Oh yeah, because I remember one man gang got bumped forward for some reason without having to fight the full amount of matches.
Yeah, and the one that was a bye for One Man Gang was then like almost the next match over. Jake versus Rick Rude, and that's a match
that was the time limit draw.
Yes, because the first 3 or 4 minutes, it's a house of fire, and they are having a very high speed, very aggressive match, and the shit looks good. And I was like, well, damn, I knew Rick was good, but I didn't know Jake had this in him. And you can tell there's a moment where one of them or the ref goes, guys, it's a timeout finish. You cannot do this for the full 15 minutes. And so they just switched to headlock, and it's just a headlock for the remaining 10 minutes. And it's like, what the? Because it's crazy how instant it's like 5 minutes straight of like both of them putting on a great fucking match. And then suddenly headlock, and that headlock just stays cinched in for 10 straight fucking minutes.
That must have been it then. It must have been, as you said, that they must have had something planned, and then somebody was like, no, you have to go the full time limit or whatever, or you're going too fast or whatever. Something must have made them just suddenly slow down. Because I remember that the headlock, and I remember the crowd audibly chanting "boring," which in that time
was rare for that time.
To my memory, I was gonna say, to my memory, that was not a common thing. So yeah, I guess I had not remembered though this detail of them maybe like the ref maybe kind of bumping them on the shoulder and saying, "Hey guys, you need to really slow it down," or maybe going to one saying, "Oh, you got like 8 minutes left. 8 minutes, fuck."
And, yeah.
The rest was what it was.
Like that, and it's astounding to look at things like that booking wise. Like obviously Vince didn't care for match quality. That was never something that was relevant to him. But like for one thing, Greg Valentine versus Ricky Steamboat, and it's a tournament, so whoever wins proceeds and is going to continue to have more matches. So obviously you book Ricky to win, because Ricky not only is just flatly the better wrestler in any context, but Greg Valentine is notorious for his absolute lack of stamina. Which would mean that a tournament environment is the last place you want to be wrestling in, right?
So, right, which character were you saying that about? Which wrestler?
Valentine, Greg Valentine.
Oh yeah.
Greg the Gas Tank.
Right.
So
yeah, I remember Monsoon had a thing about saying that he would take a while to even start up.
Yeah. And like, so obviously Ricky should win. But no, Greg Valentine wins. He proceeds in the tournament. And it's like, well, what the fuck? Why?
Yeah, I remember people questioning, like maybe not at the time, although they probably did. Well, maybe not so much then because it was kayfabe and people bought it. But like nowadays, I see a lot of like retrospective saying, why of all people did Valentine go over? Like we could have had a sequel, we could have had Steamboat again, but nah, Valentine, really?
Yeah, and like Jake and Rick, like Jake was far from the best worker in the company, but he was also far from the worst, and Rick Rude was one of the best. So why do they both get eliminated in one fell swoop?
Yeah, that I don't think much of that tournament was thought out very well. I mean, the whole thing was essentially just a way to, I guess, get it down to DiBiase, Savage, or I've never quite gotten the full clear story if it was supposed to be DiBiase going over, because I keep hearing that Hogan screwed that up. I don't know.
I didn't watch the rest of the show. I know that Hogan and Andre goes to a tie as well, which I assume was to protect.
Yeah, it's a double elimination. I can't remember. They both got disqualified by using a chair, I think.
And so, like, part of it, I assume, is just like Vince being Vince, saw like One Man Gang and went, "Oh, look at the girth," and
probably
thought, "Well, I need to get One Man Gang over in this tournament because he's going to be a star." And then turns One Man Gang into a Akeem, so classic self-defeating Vince.
Yeah. Hey, that's really kind of funny when you look at it that way. He bothered to hire the guy for obviously some reason, probably his size, knowing Vince, and then he just ruined him. Why hire him?
because he wanted to fucking have a shot across the court at Dusty
Yeah.
and say, ha ha, ha ha, Dusty, you think you're black? That's stupid. Ha. And like, one of the things I never got about Vince repeatedly having gimmicks that were trying to make fun of Dusty and say that he wants to be black is like, but Dusty himself would say that.
Yeah, yeah. Look at you. I'm calling you out for what you are. Yeah, I am, baby. Oh, well, look at you. You're dumb.
Like,
Just sheer patheticness. Just petty patheticness.
the other day, my sister had me watch a hour-long racial a video essay on the history of racist gimmicks in WWE, and like several of them I offer an explanation for. Then they get to the Virgil thing, and that one I also just throw up my hands and say, yeah, that's 100% racist. That Vince thought it would be funny to make fun of Dusty by naming a black manservant after him. That is 100% racist.
Yeah.
Like,
It is.
that's pretty bad.
That's also true.
Yeah, and I like a couple of them come up like, why didn't Shelton Benjamin get pushed? And like that one, it's like, okay, I love Shelton, but I can make the excuse of like, well, Shelton wasn't very good on the mic because he was never very good on the mic. Granted, there are a lot of guys who got pushed that weren't good on the mic, like Brett and Benoit, but Shelton wasn't good on the mic, so at least he has something we can point to of an excuse why he didn't get pushed. And then it gets to MVP, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I can't come up with an explanation there.
Really good. Well, those black people like their basketball, though, don't they?
Yeah.
Let's capitalize on that. Those
And-
darkies and their balls.
And like, you know, I think the MVP gimmick though is a great idea. Of
Yeah,
like,
it was fine. It just was another one of those unnecessary things to where he could have been perfectly fine without like that particular like it's not that's not the kind of
it is a
stereotype
gimmick
that
that's
offends
like
me.
also like, well, clear. Do you not think that this could have been given to a white guy a decade ago?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it just seemed like one of those things where it's like it to me, and I'm looking at this with a very cynical eye. But to me, it's like like okay, we could have made something out of this guy, but what's the first thing we think of? No, okay, well he's black and he's athletic. Well, let's make him a black athlete. Like we can't let his persona and his skills speak for themselves. We have to take the color of his skin into consideration. You know, and again, you know, I'm not personally offended by that particular one. Like, there's some worse ones. We've talked about them. Yeah, I mean, there's some worse ones even at that time.
The thing that amazed me is like the guy that video essay that my sister showed me. Like they hit Kamala and they talk about Kamala, and Kamala obviously I just have to say like, oh yeah, that is just 100% 80s.
That's
like
about as racist as it gets.
But like I was kind of astounded they didn't hit Saba Simba because. That's the one.
Yeah.
That's the one that was so bad that even at the time they went, "Ooh, this was a fuck up."
That might be why. Maybe they're just trying to cover it. I don't know.
Yeah, that might be why the video
Honestly,
essay didn't
hard to
hit it.
say.
If the video essay was just like, "Yeah, we won't hit Saba Simba because even Vince recognized that was a fuck up."
Yeah, it's a possibility.
But like, yeah, MVP in particular, like MVPs around the same time as Santino, and both of them I think of distinctly like Santino, legit MMA cred, like legit MMA experience. So why is he a goober? MVP, legit martial artist on several levels, but we're gonna make him a basketball football man? What?
Right. Yeah,
Like-
the Santino one I don't get because that one,
I assume the Santino, it must be that Vince just was like, but he's short, pal. Nobody's gonna believe this guy could be a legit
Maybe.
MMA guy if he's short.
like it's either that or he literally just thought that he was so funny that he deserved to run with that. I mean,
Italian
because
people
apparently
are
some
funny. I
people-
laugh at you.
I don't know. I heard somebody say, and this sounds like a joke, but no, I heard somebody say that the actual actor, the actual performer, Santino. What's the guy's real name? It doesn't matter. You know, I heard somebody say that he was naturally in real life just really funny, and because of that, that's why they ran with the comedian.
Oh God. Well, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true or not. That's
I mean, that would fit for fucking Vince hearing Razor doing Tony Soprano. What's wrong with me? Tony Montana impression. Doing a Tony Montana impression and going, "Pal, that's your gimmick now."
Right.
And even like Scott Hall in interviews is like he's clearly happy with the Razor gimmick, but when you hear him in shoots, even he's kind of like befuddled, like, "Really, Vince? This really?"
That's what you got, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Scott Hall was one of the best heroes in Shoots. I can still hear it in my head, hear him saying, well, you know, Vince, he sat me down one day, and he's still saying to me, so, Scott, let me tell you about my first homosexual experience.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, well, I remember Kevin saying something about that, and I remember Kevin's like immediate follow up to that comment was, as opposed to your first,
As opposed to your most recent.
your most recent. Yeah, I'm sorry, your last. Yeah, as opposed to your most recent. Yeah.
That's the thing about Kev, is that Kev's kind of derpy in a lot of ways, but correct me if I'm wrong, Kev's also got a shockingly high IQ, doesn't he, or something like that?
He sounds it's his delivery. He sounds dumb,
Yeah.
but he's actually like a pretty well reasoned guy from what I've
Well,
been
he's
able
a
to
giant. He's got massive lungs.
That too, yeah.
So he's got
it
a
takes a while.
really big, booming, deep, airy voice.
Yeah, that is true. He does. Same with Scott Hall. Scott Hall's super deep and kind of talks sort of slow. In the interview, he'd be like, "Wow, kind of talking like that."
Yeah,
Because
that's one thing I always found
he's a
funny,
pretty intelligent guy.
is that, like, if you try to do an impression of either man, they kind of sound the same impression-wise. Like, if you hear them speaking, you can tell the difference, but if it's someone else doing an impression, the impression is identical for either man.
I think it's because the way I interpret it is that Kevin Nash, his natural speaking voice, is somewhat different from his character voice, where Scott Hall to me sounds the same. Like
Yeah.
Scott Hall to me, the actor sounds the same as the character, whereas to me, Diesel talks, with a little bit more purpose than Kevin Nash.
Yeah,
Because Nash is kind of slow and thoughtful, whereas Diesel had to make a point, that kind of thing.
yeah, and I think everyone can recall in their heads. Look at the adjective. Play.
Yeah, there's that. That doesn't really go too well.
Like,
I
he's
can't remember what
lucky that
I
happened
said
midway
something.
through his career rather than earlier, else he would have wound up in Owen territory of kicking your leg out of your leg.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of those kind of ones to where, I mean, obviously it was a fumble. He obviously didn't say the right thing. Like, it speaks for itself, clearly. But with Owen, at least, it was just the words tripped out wrong, whereas Kevin Nash specifically set up a point and fucked it up.
Like, well, it's clearly supposed to be verb, right? It's just
Yeah.
that verb got mixed up with adjective in his head.
Right.
Which
which made him
obviously
sound like he was trying
we
to be
all
smarter than
have
he
that.
was.
Like, that happens to
we
all
do.
of us.
Yes.
But, like, nonetheless, like, it's a hilarious fucking, one of the best verbal botches ever.
It is. Look at the pronoun there. Kevin Nash.
Like, I loved it when Kevin Nash and LA Knight were having their little social media feud. LA Knight going out and cutting a promo, where at some point the word play comes up, and LA Knight says, now, I would say, look at the adjective, play, if I were an idiot, but I'm not. So instead, I'm looking at the verb.
Yeah. I mean, he he had it coming.
Yeah. I mean, it was back and forth for a little bit, and I know Kev, he's a smart worker. I imagine I wouldn't be shocked if he texted or rung up LA Knight ahead of time, like, hey, let's work the marks, man. I'm gonna go on the interview, and I'm gonna say that you're just an Austin and the Rock ripoff, man. And then you can you can go on TV and you can shit on me, man. It'll get more people watching you, and it'll get more people watching my podcast, man.
Yeah. He seems good for that kind of thing, and he also seems to like mocking the marks for being marks.
Yeah.
I think there was even, I don't know if it was a Nash interview. I don't know, because it seems like it would be based on what I'm about to say, but I can't remember specifically who it was. But there was somebody that Sean Oliver was doing a shoot with, and he was reading off the name of the person who sent in the clip or the letter or whatever it was that he was about to display to the interviewee, and the person's name, their handle was Mark for Marks because they're marks. Or something like that. Yeah, and whoever it was, I want to say, given what we're talking about, that it was Nash, but whoever it was laughed heartily. Yeah.
Yeah, man, we're marks for marks. Those
My
marks.
favorite of the... It's so funny because he
Kev,
says
are
the
you
marks
okay? I may be having... Mark may be having a stroke. Call a Markulance.
It's the fact that he says it with such dismissiveness. Like, yeah, just a bunch of dumb marks, you know? It's just wrestling. It's just a show. Marks take it too seriously. And it's like, I mean, but he's acting like he's above it when in fact, just by being a wrestler, you yourself kind of are a mark, right? I mean, you're the one who's playing pretend. You know, I mean, just because
And
other
you've
people are
already
watching, you're
fallen
the
for
one.
the bit. You are now the mark.
Yeah, yeah. It's just he had such a odd like again, just like he was above it. I don't know, like a weird pretentious way of dismissing wrestling fans. Like if they believe it too much, like when they say that Brett was a mark for himself, like that makes sense. Yes, he is. He's super like into like self worship. I guess for lack of a better term, because Brett's
Yeah.
very high on himself. Wrestling fans aren't necessarily high on it; they just really enjoy it. And like I guess in classic terminology that does in fact make them a mark, but he said it in such a way that it almost makes it sound like he was like exclusive to it. Like, well, sure, I completely indulge myself in the business. I'm a part of it in every conceivable way. I play the politics. I have friends in the business. I have enemies in the business. Yeah, but yet like, oh, but no, I don't take it seriously. Like you obviously completely do. You're just not, you're just, I don't know. Just his attitude again, that he seemed to be so much more above it than everybody else, all of his contemporaries. It just always struck me as so, I mean, I like Nash, but it just always struck me as just so, just, well, obviously condescending,
Yeah,
right?
I
Just like,
would
well, yeah, I'll
absolutely call Kev a condescending guy.
right. It's almost like he clearly loved what he was doing. Otherwise, he at least loved the money at the very least. A
He
point
loved
being,
the
he
show
did it.
aspect.
I would think so. I would definitely think so. But he carries on as if it was basically just like this is all really stupid, but I guess I'll do it because it pays well. And it's like no, you threw yourself into it for like however long it was.
Yeah,
Well,
but
like
he
a
says things
decade
in.
of his life, 15 years of his life.
Kev would always say things in shoots though, just to piss people off.
I guess that's true too.
The fucking vanilla midgets, man.
Which
Which
didn't
I,
you say that
which I,
he himself? Yeah,
I
go
mean,
ahead.
if memory serves, he has later on made fun of people for believing that was true, believing
I
that he
don't
was
know.
actually.
Do you think that's just him covering his bases now? Like, oh well, I'll act like I didn't believe it because that people keep giving me shit about it. I'll pretend that I was
Nah,
cool.
as the booker, he was the one that put the belt on Benoit.
That's what you said. Yeah.
He made sure that he lost to Ray. He tried to put over the cruiserweight
He
division with
lost
some
to
other
Ray.
stuff. Yeah, he lost to Ray.
Really?
Well, remember, it was him and Scott Hall's call. They were the ones that made the call, supposedly, to unmask Ray, because, quoting Scott Hall directly here, man, you're too good looking. You're too good looking to wear a mask, man. But, right
Really? They
after,
said that?
yeah, and afterwards Kev wanted to put Ray over, so he did.
Okay. Well, if he did, then I guess he did. Um. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. My memory was that. Well, this doesn't mean anything, I guess. But yeah. In the match when he does unmask, they had Kevin and Scott like mocking him and like say, "Put the mask back on," which I guess is a pretty standard heel thing to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's I don't know. Like Ray always and even to this day looks to me like a little child. So I don't know where they got the whole good looking thing, but it's subjective. He's not an ugly guy, but I always thought he looked like a little wee baby boy.
He does,
So
and he
I don't know.
still does. It's crazy.
He does. I mean, do
Like,
you think that that's their excuse though? Do you think maybe they didn't just say that to him just as an excuse to try to get him to get the mask off, when in fact that was basically just killing his popularity to do so? Like,
I,
yeah, let's ruin this guy because that's what we do. We like to put ourselves over other people. Let's make him unmask and tell him, oh, it'll be good for you. It'll be good for your character because you're so good looking.
I mean, if I want to read the worst possible intention into their every action, then yes, that could be that it would be a reasonable explanation for that.
It just fits their character.
Yeah, I don't know. It's difficult to say.
Yeah, it is.
I've never thought as lowly of the clique, at least outside of Sean, as most people do, though. So I think already I'd be saying stuff that most people wouldn't believe. They just go like, "No, they kicked puppies. They ate babies."
I don't necessarily think
Sometimes
that.
they kicked babies and ate puppies.
And eat puppies.
Yeah, I'm
I
not
just think that
saying
it
you
seems
would,
to
but I
me.
mean, there's some people out there that despise the clique and view them as Satan. You know?
Yeah, there are. That is true. It just seems to be in their character to me. It seems like, I mean, there was a while there. It seems like more of a Sean thing, but I mean, pretty much every
Sean would
wrestler
bury
of
the other
that
members of the
time.
clique.
Well, yeah, I mean, he would, but that's just goes to show that he had no limits.
Yeah. Oh,
It,
well, what was it you said? Kev said he's an asshole. Shrug.
he's our asshole. Yeah, I mean, I remember talking about that Diesel versus Shawn match at Mania 11. I remember I think actually it was Diesel himself during a shoot who came out and said that I told Shawn like, yeah, I'm gonna like, I'm gonna totally kick your ass in terms of oh, like I can't think of the exact word, but it was something along the lines of like, yeah, I'm gonna look like $1 million out there. Like I'm gonna totally walk away with that match. And Tom's like, yeah, I'm gonna make sure you don't. Like that kind of thing. What where
Yeah.
like you might initially think of that like if we didn't know these guys as we to some extent do, you might think of that as like friendly competition. But no, like the way Nash phrased it was basically like no, like Shawn was legitimately trying to stop him from being the star of that match, which is why Diesel then went on to say that yeah, like look at the match, he was doing a bunch of baby face stuff, and he was supposed to be the heel.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. Just based on what everybody said at that time in WWE and WCW, it seemed like the whole clique was constantly out for themselves. So I honestly, based on that, I wouldn't put it past them to have done stuff like tell Mysterio that yeah, you look so much better without the mask. Screw your entire heritage. Which by the way, he shouldn't be wrestling with a mask anymore. But that's okay. We'll let that one slide.
Yeah, there's
Like,
a loophole there.
is there actually?
Yes. So what it is he was Rey Mysterio Jr. and now he's not Rey Mysterio Jr. He's just Rey Mysterio.
Oh, that is
Uh huh.
okay. All right. Wow.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
it is
That
100. It has been acknowledged as being 100% a loophole that only exists because Rey Mysterio Sr. is a fucking hero down there.
is that actually yeah, because I was gonna say that's some pretty dumb lack of foresight if they actually thought, well, if you don't change your name though, I mean rather if you change your name, then you can get away with it. Even if it's adding something as simple as like changing it from a junior to a not junior. Oh man, now you're I mean, like conceptually, that is like such a fucking feeble excuse. I mean, like, why even have the rule to begin with? Like, to preserve your legacy, your honor, the culture, the long lineage of mass wrestling and all that, if you're really just going to be willing to throw it away because of a name change. Like, if you're willing to throw it away because of that, why have the rule to begin with?
Yeah, it's pretty silly.
It is. Whatever. Is he the only one who's done that?
I believe he's the only one.
I see. There you
You
go.
can put on a different mask and you'll be fine. Laparca got on mask like 3 times before he became Laparca.
But did he not? Did he not change character when he did it?
He did.
Okay, yeah. See, that makes a difference too. At least I would think.
Yeah. And some guys just stayed unmasked. Old Psychosis stayed unmasked, and so did Juventud.
That's what you're supposed to do. So I don't know. Then again, they're not. Where's their?
But they
career?
were
What's
stars when they were unmasked, comparative to Laparca, who was a jobber when he got unmasked.
Ah, okay. Bunch of weirdos.
Yeah. I don't think anyone ever accused Juventud, at least, of being a normal person. Fucking
Which
the
one got like
juice.
naked on PCP and got in a fight at an airport or a hotel or something?
I have not heard of that happening to.
Unironically?
Okay, I don't know
think that was
much about
Psychosis.
Juventud. I've heard Juventud is crazy.
No, I
so
think it was Juventud. I think it was Juventud.
Yeah,
I have to go back and look.
I guess that would be Juventud, because I know Juventud's notorious for being kind of a pain in a lot of ways.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Somewhere I read that it was in like the I don't know, like early 2000s or mid 2000s, something like that. Like somebody lost their shit. And yeah, like
I've
went
never
around like
heard
running
of
around
this.
naked in a hotel, had a fight or something like that, like buck naked. Yeah, I think it might have been Uvi. Actually, it was 2000. Yeah, late 2000s. I think like 2008,
Okay, I
9,
need to
somewhere
look
around there
this
is when I
up.
heard it.
I
Yeah, please do. Now I'm curious.
I definitely know that I had heard before that Juventud was a problem, but
I don't know even what you look at. Maybe like Juventud, like naked arrest or something. Maybe I don't even
this
know.
sounds like it'd be on Wikipedia.
Yeah, you just have to look down their personal life or arrests or whatever. One of those subjects.
Actually, that wasn't on Wikipedia. Okay, I'm gonna look up Juventud Guerrera arrest. Oh, yep, October 6, 2000, on
Oh,
IGN. Juventud Guerrera arrested naked.
that's it.
By IGN staff in October 6th of 2000.
That's a lot earlier than I remembered. I didn't personally hear about it until at least like 7 or 8 years later.
October of 2000, Juventud Guerrera's future with WCW is in question. Boy, were they right in a way they didn't know.
Yeah. That's funny.
WCW seems to be jinxed when touring foreign countries. In 1993, during a visit to England, two of their superstars at the time, calling them superstars for WCW in 2000?
That's
Okay,
actually, that must have just been like generic language, I guess.
two of their superstars at the time, Sid Vicious and Arn Anderson, got into a brutal stabbing contest with a pair of scissors. That makes it sound like it wasn't a brawl. That makes it sound like Sid and Arn ran into each other backstage. Hey, let's see who can stab each other the most with a pair of scissors.
Yeah.
In 1994, Mick Foley legitimately tore part of his ear during a match against Vader. WCW officials hope for positive publicity and good fortune during their current tour of Australia. Juventud Guerrera was arrested over the weekend for 3 counts of assault, disorderly conduct, indecent exposure, obstructing police, and possession of a drug.
That's the one.
Yep. The young high flyer at Brisbane's Marriott Hotel. The young high flyer began yelling obscenities, then removed all of his clothes near the dining area. When police officers came to the scene, Hoovy started rapidly punching at several of them. He ended up breaking the ribs of a female officer.
It's specified rapidly. Did I hear that right?
Rapidly.
Oh, that's even better, actually.
He ended up breaking the ribs of a female officer. It took 3 to 6 cops to restrain Guerrera. They had to use mace to subdue him.
Yeah.
In the Sunday edition of the Herald Sun, WCW front office worker Sharon Sadello confirmed that Hoovy was being sent home, saying, "It's certainly unfortunate and unexpected. The group is usually well behaved."
Yeah. Well, relatively speaking, more than that at least, yeah.
After Guerrero was locked up in a padded cell, the police found 2 green ecstasy tablets in his sock.
Oh, it was ecstasy. I thought it was, wow, okay. I didn't know ecstasy could do that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. That sounds a lot more like PCP to me, but...
Yeah, it did, yeah.
Of course, in the year 2000, we might have got it screwed up what drug it was on, because back then, the knowledge about drugs wasn't so common.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, pleaded guilty, yada yada. He was fined $2,050 as well as an extra $1,400 for breaking the cop's ribs.
Jeez.
Don't do drugs, kids.
Yeah, no, really.
And if memory serves, like I've heard in passing, never in detail, but I've heard in passing, like most of the other luchadors from down in Mexico will say, like, Juventud, very talented, but my God, that kid's a pain in the fucking ass.
Yeah, well, stories like that, I could see that being the case.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I'm surprised you hadn't heard that one, since you're so much more learned in the travails of various wrestlers.
Hoovy's one I like out of the WCW lucha guys. Like, La Parka's always the one that drew my interest the most because like that's a pretty distinctive gimmick, right?
Yeah, it is.
Other than that, I've not like done whole lot of research. Like I've seen a little bit of like Silver King, and I went, "Wow, nobody talks about Silver King. He's a really good wrestler." Oh, it's
Yeah,
probably
no
because
one does.
It's probably because he's chubby and balding.
Was he the one that was in Nacho Libre?
Ooh, was he? He might have been. He was one of the Black Tigers over in Japan, opposite the Tiger Masks.
Okay.
I remember that much. I'll look it up. Because there was...
Guess is yes. I thought he was, but I'm not sure.
Let's see. Yeah, I am currently looking it up. Oh, shit! He was the son of Dr. Wagner Sr. and the brother of Dr. Wagner Jr.
Don't know them.
Big heels down there in Mexico. They had kind of like, I don't know, an evil doctor gimmick. I don't know.
Oh, if it's done well, I could, they tried that with Kane with the dentist thing, which was obviously very dumb. But I could see somebody being an evil doctor in wrestling if it's done right.
And yes, Silver King was the main villain of Nacho Libre. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Ramses, the luchador.
Yeah, yeah. He did good. I mean, not much was asked of him, but he played the role perfectly fine.
Yeah. And of course, Nacho Libre, that kind of ties back to Charlotte and the Flairs, because Nacho Libre was based off the story of the real life wrestler Freddy Tormenta, who is still a priest in a luchador
Yeah,
mask,
you were that's great.
and he officiated Charlotte and Andrade's wedding.
That's right. You were telling me about that.
I love wrestling. It's just such a bizarre and insane mythology.
Who officiated your wrestling? This priest in a lucha mask. Oh, okay, yeah, all right.
Imagine
Anyway,
going to fucking mass, and he's up there at the fucking lectern.
he's probably super popular.
Yeah, and like he's ancient now. He's like, if he's not 90, he's pushing it. So it's
Oh
a very
wow.
small little luchador, but nonetheless, up there at the lectern is a tiny old luchador. Uh I think I said this last time. I think we joked about it a little bit last time, but my god, could you imagine just being a fly on the wall, like a photographer who doesn't know what he's going into for that wedding? And like the split of like one side of the pews is all masked dudes, luchadors.
Right.
The other side of the pew is all like old tough southern wrestling stars within their families. Like you're looking on one side and you got all these fucking masked dudes, on the other side there's Magnum TA and fucking probably Cody and Dustin and
For better or worse, I can't imagine it.
Tully, Arn.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they'd want the Blanchards there. Have you heard much about, like, I've always heard like little side comments about Tully being a problem to be around, but I've never heard precise stories about Tully. Have you?
No, I haven't. If I have, I never knew enough about Tully because that was back in he was like a big like, not early WCW, but like early my era WCW. So I at that point wasn't
Yeah,
paying any attention to WCW.
you would have seen him a little bit in the WWF, right? Because he and Arn were the
Yes.
Brainbusters for a minute.
Yeah, that's the only time that I was aware of him. Yeah, he and it was a decent team too. Well, I mean, obviously,
Obviously.
WCW is a team, right? But yeah, he was only in. Oh God, did they even win the titles in the WWE? I think they.
They
No,
got him
I almost
once,
don't think they
right?
did. Did they?
Wouldn't they have been feuding with
I
Demolition for a good while?
they were for a little while. I don't know why they wouldn't have won the titles, but some part of me says they didn't. Like I'm at
I
that
mean, there
stage where
might
it's
have been
like,
some
if they
distrust of
know,
like,
why wouldn't
no,
they have?
I could see maybe some degree of distrust of like, well, we know you're just over here because you're not liking that fucking
Jim Herd?
what's Jim Hurd? Yeah, we know you're over here because you don't like that Jim Hurd, and you're probably gonna go back when he's gone. But they put the belt on Rick, and Rick was definitely going back after Jim Hurd.
I couldn't say. They seem like they would have been like a natural fit to have the title, but for some reason I'm just not remembering that as being the case. I'd be surprised if they didn't, but at the same time somehow still surprised if they had a title. One of those kind of situations.
Yeah. Hmm. But I know, I remember hearing, because I remember, well, obviously I've heard a good couple guys kind of just imply that either Tully was annoying or pain in the ass to be around or some kind of narcissistic sort of
He might have
fella.
been.
But I remember specifically when the stuff was going on with Tessa, where it turned out Tessa was doing this and that and another and all kinds of shit that was making all kinds of people mad, and also the accusations that she was recording fucking scat porn. At least audio scat porn.
Audio scat porn?
He told you about this.
Audio scat porn. I guess I might
There was
have put that on my
accusations
mind.
that she was recording herself for some, like, she was recording herself taking a shit and selling it.
What would anyone get out of that? Like, obviously, I'm speaking to I think most people. That it would be a fair question to say, what are you getting out of porn, scat porn? Period. But audio, like you're not even seeing the act. You're just hearing like squishy noises.
So I
What
think
what,
I've
what
sent you
would
the
that?
because Cornette and Brian Last wound up listening to it live and they put it on
You
YouTube, which
did?
I don't know how YouTube accepted that, but it did. And like, so I wound up listening to it through them listening to it. I was listening to them listen to it, and thus vis a
Right.
vis listening to it. And it is just her talking about how turned on she is by shitting, and
Yeah.
talking about how, oh, you must be so into this. I bet you're just touching yourself right now. All this, that, and another.
Typical.
And like, it
Or
definitely
the
was never proven
occasional
whether or not it was
sputtering
actually.
sound effects.
This was definitely some woman doing this, but it was never proven to be Tessa, I don't think.
Okay.
But either way, yeah, I remember, yeah, listening to it, and like, I was seeing, like, okay, yeah, someone out there is really into just what she's saying, I suppose. But
I suppose.
yeah, when the stories were going around, like, Tessa was being really racist to black women backstage. She
Oh.
was she was sabotaging a lot of other women and being a huge fucking bitch. And this
Oh,
all
okay.
came out after Tessa was saying, none of it, this all came out because Tessa went on Twitter saying women should be nice to each other. And a bunch of other chicks in the business started going,
So really?
yeah, they, like, actually, yes, several of them did say, so really? Well, that's funny. I remember last year you were doing this and that to me, or just, like, one of them, like, just outright saying, like, yeah, I remember last year you were calling me a dirty fucking N-word and all this, that, and another.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay.
And Cornette, like, at first was trying to take Tessa's side, like, well, this is just, you know, he say, she say, whose word against whose. But the longer the accusations start to pile up, the more that Cornette starts chuckling and saying, oh, Tully, yep, she's a Blanchard, all right.
Oh. Well, all right then.
So I guess, yeah, Tully was just, for the other people who worked in Crockett at the time, yeah, I guess Tully was known to be kind of a pain in the ass.
You know, it seems like a lot of those WCW guys that had any kind of clout were assholes. I mean, going all the way to the obviously the you know
Poor
the
Arn,
click base.
except for poor fucking Arn caught, stuck around him.
Yeah, I was gonna say that Arn. Yeah, I was actually gonna go into that. That Arn seems to be the only one who has the reputation as being just a good guy.
Yeah, and I pointed out to you before, Ric Flair doing a podcast and saying, like, fucking Arn Anderson, he's back, whatever, fuck him, for out of nowhere. Not, I don't remember even offered justification. He just seemed to be doing it out of fucking
Came out
nowhere.
with it.
Yeah, and Arn gets brought up to Arn on his podcast, and Arn very genuinely, sadly, just sounds like,
What did
no,
I do?
I didn't. No, not even that. He just said, I had no idea Rick felt this way about me. I thought he and I were friends. And Arn
That
sounds
is
very
sad.
genuinely
Jeez.
sad about it.
Well, that sucks. I don't know what the story is there. Maybe Ric Flair's just kind of losing his mind because it seems like he is.
Yeah.
It could just be that.
Again, going back to Charlotte, I can't stop him.
Yeah.
Like, it almost, it sounds kind of fucking like dire, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. Yeah. Yeah. He can't be stopped. I've tried.
Like, you can't stop me.
I was just thinking that. Yeah.
I'm gonna find all the airplane hostesses. I'm flying. I'm jet flying. I'm jet dealing. I'm wheeling flying.
Yeah, that's right. Eating jets and stealing wheels and kissing rides, kissing Splash Mountain. Just completely lost his fucking mind.
Limousine stealing. Like, I just imagine every time I get that fucking Flair promo I mixed up, I imagine Flair like GTA, right? GTA 5, sometimes when you go to open a car, or GTA 4 even, when you go to steal a car, Nico would swing the door open with all of his force with his one arm, then seamlessly with his other arm, he'd just jaw-jack the guy in the driver's seat, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm imagining Flair going to the driver's side door of this limousine, swinging it open, and knife edge chopping the driver right in the chest.
I could picture that.
Pedestrians on the sidewalk going, woo!
Yeah.
And he pulls him out and just drives away. Probably rolling over a fucking fire hydrant in the midst of it.
That also sounds right.
The police are in hot pursuit of Ric Flair in a stolen limousine.
I'm trying to
Back to
think if
the
you could steal. No, none of those games had limos. I don't think. I think all the way back in Grand Theft Auto 1, the overhead Grand Theft Auto. I think that one had limos, but yeah. Anyway, just kind of a side thought, I guess.
GTA 5 must have thrown one in at some point just because with GTA Online getting fucking over a decade
Oh
of
yeah,
support. There's
you're
no
right.
way.
It probably did.
And if there weren't limos, there's no way they didn't throw them in and then probably charge $20 for them.
Yeah, that sadly sounds about right. I know that.
I
Excuse me.
the
Go ahead.
last time I saw a major update for them that okay, there was the CEO update. I remember that. And I bet you anything if limousines didn't exist before that, they existed for that.
CEO update. Do you remember what was in that one?
That you could start a business with other players and be a CEO, and other players could
Oh.
raid you.
Oh, that one. That was like the last big one that excited me way, way back before. Like I tried it and it was like, wow, this is actually way more complicated than it needs to be. So that would have been like 2015 or 16, maybe.
Yeah, I
God, that
can just
goes
remember
back.
for the achievement hunters playing with it for a little bit, and that wasn't really important. The important thing of the video was that at one point, somebody hires a mugger on Gavin, which was what they did in every single video, is somebody would hire a mugger on Gavin because they thought it was funny. And so Michael and Jeremy and Gavin are all driving around in a fire truck because Gavin was obsessed with fire trucks in that game. He would always, if he saw a fire truck, he would steal it on the spot. Sometimes just to amuse himself, he'd call 911, call in for a fire, just to summon a fire truck and hijack it. He just loved stealing fire trucks in that game. So he steals a fire truck and he gets Michael and Jeremy in it. They're driving along for a little bit. They stop for something or other. And while they're stopped, the mugger runs up and jacks Gavin out of the vehicle. You've been mugged before by a mugger in that game, right?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
Yeah, if you're in a vehicle, they run up, they do like what I was saying, Ric Flair there, they do that to you in your vehicle. They run up, they swing your door open, jaw jack, you pull it out, get in your vehicle after stealing your money and drive away in your vehicle.
Yes.
So the guy runs up and fucking jaw jacks Gavin and pulls him out of the fire truck and hops in the driver's seat and drives forward off into the distance with Michael and Jeremy still in it who didn't notice.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So Gavin starts sprinting after the fire truck and saying, wait for me, it's going away. But it's in the middle of a conversation already that both Jeremy and Michael are already participating in, so they don't notice him saying that until eventually, they've driven for a good 5 minutes. They've ridden in the back of the fire truck with this guy for a good 5 minutes, and they're down the highways out in the fucking desert. And Jeremy just simply goes Gavin, where are you taking us? And Gavin says, where am I taking you where? What are you talking about? Because Gavin at that point's given up on chasing the thing. He's gone off to do something else.
Okay.
So they're saying, okay, in the fire truck, where are you driving us, man? Oh, I'm not driving you. What the fuck? Where are we driving then? Oh, the mugger. And Jeremy and Michael, in perfect sync, both start screaming and fucking barrel out, fucking tuck and roll out of the fire truck.
That's pretty great.
Oh, it was amazing.
So they never confronted or found out anything about the mugger, who he was, or anything like that. It was just some random guy that was it. He had this little mini adventure with them, and then they went their separate ways.
Yeah, they didn't pursue the fire truck. I mean, the guy was going at full speed, so it was unlikely they'd be able to catch him before you would hit the edge of the player radius and despawn. But
yeah,
no, I forget. I almost want to say it was Jeremy or Michael that hired the mugger to begin with.
And they had just forgotten.
Yeah. Well, you know, Michael. He's a little bit forgetful sometimes.
I suppose so. You'd think that seems like it'd be a big thing to forget, but you never know. A lot going on in that game. A lot of people playing it. It happens.
Yeah, and especially when you're doing what we do, but instead of 2 or 3 or 4 people, 6 people, the conversations can get pretty overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
Excuse me. All right, this recording has gone on for
Oh yeah,
a
mine has
little
too.
A little over 3 hours, so I'm going to go ahead and cut mine, start a new one.
It's been 3 hours?